Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll?
A quorum is present.
We're going, folks, could we come to order, please? There's going to be a presentation by the Inglewood Unified School District President, Trina Williams, regarding the summer school, meal, and after-school programs, followed by a presentation by West Basin Director Gloria Gray, recognizing Inglewood businesses for their water conservation efforts. Ms. Williams? I don't see other one. Okay, so we're going to move on to public comments. Okay. Ms. Gray? Ms. Gray, did you have a presentation?
No, it's just a few words, that's all.
Okay. Good evening, Ms. Gray.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gloria Gray. I'm an elected member of West Basin Municipal Water District Board, and I represent Division 2, which includes Inglewood. And thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for allowing me to be here tonight. I believe I'm here to make presentations to a number of businesses who have been very successful in saving water. I want to first congratulate your leadership, council and mayor, because you were the first city in the South Bay areas that actually created a resolution to encourage residents to save water, and so I thank you for that on behalf of West Basin. Many of you know that West Basin is a wholesale of water in this city. One of the things that West Basin has focused on for months is a program called Water Reliability 2020. And what that means is that West Basin is focusing on their efforts to create local resources. Many of you may know that water comes from up north, from the Delta. We get 60% of our water in Southern California from the Delta area. And some of you, I believe, have been on our inspection trips to actually see that happen. I see the walkers are here. But West Basin is really concerned about water reliability. And so we created Water Reliability 2020. And what it does is focuses on water conservation and water recycling and also ocean desal. So some of your businesses in this area have been very good about saving water. And I believe my staff has some awards to present to them tonight. Is that true? Okay. You want to come forward and give them to me? Okay. She has given me a list. Oh, we'll do you last, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Okay. Amen Techno Training Center. Oh, Dr. Betty Davis Walker, President, and Mr. Hal Walker, Chairman. Congratulations. I know them very well. Thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you so much. The next business is Del Air Inn. Harish Chandra and Jay Patel, managers. Are they here? Thank you. Thank you very much for your efforts in conserving water. The next one is the LA Bridge Club. No, they're not here tonight, but we want to congratulate them. Thank you very much. The other is the Los Angeles County Fire Department, Station 171, Ron Durbin. Thank you, Ron. Mr. Durbin, just a couple of comments, worked in collaboration with Los Angeles County Fire Department, Station 171, so thank you. Cloud 9 Motel, Jack Bat manager, is he here? No, but congratulate them. Thank you very much. And last but not least, we'd like to make a presentation to the City of Inglewood and ask the mayor to come forward and council members again for their efforts in water conservation. So thank you very much. And I do want to thank the residents for their efforts. It really does make a difference. Water is a very important resource, and we can't take it for granted. So we really need to do it and teach our children to conserve water. Thank you very much.
this is for me, right? Okay. Okay.
Public comment. Any persons wishing to address the council on any items of today's agenda other than closed session may do so at this time. Let me tell you that item 3 from the consent calendar has been pulled. Item DR1, DR3, CSA 3 have also been pulled.
Did you say DR1? Repeat those.
DR1, DR3, and CSA 3. Okay, folks, should we come to order? Public comment, please step forward.
Excuse me, I'd like to know what just occurred.
Well, he's handling it. Go
Good
ahead,
day,
sir.
Mayor and City Council. My name is Derek Steele. I'm the Civic Engagement Programs Director of the Social Justice Learning Institute. I had the opportunity to come before you last week, and I'm speaking to DR2. Just wanted to, again, reintroduce our organization. We exist to improve the health, education, and well-being of youth and community of color, specifically here in Inglewood. And a lot of the work that we have done is really focused on healthy eating and active living. There's a lot of different gardens and everything that we've done throughout the city. We've also working with the school district as well as the city officials and community members and growing and maintaining our own healthy options here in the city. But one of the things that came to be very important to us, that was brought to our attention through the students that we work with, is bike accessibility here in the city. It's sort of a dangerous place to actually bike. For pedestrians who walk on the sidewalks, because you do have bikers who ride on the sidewalks, as well as for bikers who actually ride in the streets. Because we don't have bike lanes here in the city, even if you get the bikers to ride closer to the sidewalks, there's trash and debris that can be dangerous for the bikers, and they can pop tires, as well as if they're riding too far out, they can be hit by cars. From 2005 to 2010, from what we found in the annual report of fatal and injury motor vehicles and traffic collisions, 125 people were injured on bikes that were hit by cars here in the city of Inglewood. And so we can actually change that by working together, by adding bike lanes here in the city. As an organization, we would love to partner with the city to actually make available classes for city residents and community members about bike safety, about the possibilities of how we can work together to move forward for policy changes here in the city to add bike lanes into the city. I actually brought a couple young men with me today to actually give you their point of view about how bike safety here in the city. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you, and looking forward for the rest of the meeting.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ty King Brown. I am a current graduate of Morningside High School. Like he said, I'm coming to, just give you an example of why we feel we should get bike lanes in the city of Inglewood. If you go along Morningside any time of the day, you can see like multiple bikes lined up around the gate. At our school, it's many of us who ride bikes. The football team, the volleyball team, normal students, people, just everybody, ride bikes to get home safe and quicker. One of my friends, he was a member of the football team, was after practice, and he was in a hurry to get home because he had to go babysit his brother. On his way home, he was like turning, I don't know what street that is. It's right across the street from the garden. He was turning that corner, and as he was turning, a car was turning. And unfortunately, he got hit by the car. And was injured and broke his arm and leg and couldn't play for the rest of the season. That's just one of my reasons of why I think we should get bike lanes, because in that case it wouldn't have happened. You know, he could have been in the bike lane, the car would have saw him, nothing would have happened. He could have finished playing this football season and everything. So that's just my point of view. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Evan Johnson. I'm also a current graduate of Morningside High School, and I encourage the bike lane because late summer in 2011, I lost a friend, Maj, and he also he was going Crenshaw Imperial, and what happened? A car hit him. It was a hit and run. So I wouldn't want anybody else to experience and go through the same pain I did, but I also feel like this is very important for our city because I would like for everybody to be safe. Also, it's a blessing that we are still here because, like TK, every day we go after school for football practice. We rush to get home because it gets dark, and we want to go through this. We want to push through this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Benbow, excuse me, District 1. I'm in full support of a DR 5, the approval of the Central Improvement Plan, Capital Improvement Plan for the city. I've worked with the plan. I know the plan is well thought out, and we're just anxious to see the plan get into action and them to start working with the streets and the neighborhoods and make this thing happen as soon as possible. And just a word on DR2 also. The Public Works Department and the Parking and Traffic Commission is well aware of this, and that we have been trained on this item, and we're ready for them whenever they bring up the issue of getting the bike lanes and that sort of thing ready to go. We have been trained, and we're ready for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, okay, can we just get closer to the mic?
Frank, District 4, payment of the bills. I only got one item, but it's a big one. $16,498 at Home Depot, and I'm just wondering, what did the folks buy for something like that?
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Gil Matthew, District 4, Mayor and City Council. You have a lot on the agenda, so I'll try to go fast. I want to speak to a few of the items. Item number 6 on the Gann Amendment. I think that's an excellent idea for you to understand that we as a city, we have a lot of money with the Gann Amendment that's available for funding. In other words, for selling some bonds. In other words, I'm all in favor of this shortfall that we in, and rather than disseminate the organization more, that they consider a bond sale, particularly municipal bonds, tax-exempt bonds, or general obligation bonds. On item 6, 7, and 8 on the police, I think it's an excellent idea, whatever the police need to strengthen the organization. And on DR3, on the redevelopment agency ownership.
That's been pulled. DR3
Okay.
is pulled.
Okay, well, you should have a meeting of the redevelopment agency. On A2, I want to know what the effect of the budget is. We have some liabilities unseen as far as litigation is concerned. In fact, to the tune of $1.6 million. Now, we have $1 million liability. Of course, we only insured over the first million, so we have a $1 million settlement with a Girard case. And then we have another $650,000 settlement with a Ortega case. And looking on the internet, we're pretty much up there on litigation. We're in the neighborhood almost 2 or 3% of the budget. And that's a little bit on the upside. And also on your improvement, the improvement program that you have is unfunded at this time. So it's a good wish list. And when you on the improvement programs for the future, the borderline of Inglewood is Van Ness. Do not allow programs to be stopped at Crenshaw. Now you have a proposal for the repairs of Crenshaw of Century. Then you stop at Crenshaw, and then when you go from Crenshaw to Van Ness, you want to put 2 lanes, you want to reduce lanes, and then most of the programs, it's not even listed. It stops at Crenshaw. So just note that. Other than that, we a broke city, but we're not broken. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
Good afternoon, council, staff. First, what I'd like to talk about is consent item number 5 on the human resources, trying to establish a per diem for the city and also establishing car allowance for city employees. Well, in the state of the economy for the city, it's like if we're saying we broke, why are we going to give car allowances? I mean, that don't make sense to me. I was even told that someone was getting a car allowance that don't even have a driver's license. So we need to really check into if we're going to give car allowances and see if they really deserve it. The other item what I'd like to speak on is the city's attorney's recommendation for the adoption to transfer some funds from various accounts. I mean, if we got money that we can transfer money from these accounts to pay for some lawsuits and litigations from this year and last year, I mean, it seems like we should be able to transfer some funds from various accounts to help the budget for this coming year. I mean, if you got this kind of money to juggle for legal expenses, it seems like we can juggle some money to help the deficit and help get rid of these furloughs that we're taking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Noah Noriega. I work for Parks and Recreation. I'm going to speak on behalf of my coworkers who can't speak for themselves, being because they are not fluent in the language or are too shy to do so. For years, we have provided services for the city and community of Inglewood. We never back down from any tasks or assignments. We are understaffed, overworked, and we still don't complain. Our work environment is whatever nature throws at us,
Sir, which item were you
and we do it proudly.
Which item were you speaking on right now?
Budget. Because I was just going to ask the council and management to just not to piss off the city and to treat us workers with fairness and respect.
Okay.
And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
My name is Alicia Howard, and I work for in Parks and Recreation and Library Services. And I am speaking of in regards to the budget portion. And I just want to appeal to Mayor and Council and administration on behalf of the general employees. We are willing to do our part as far as trying to remedy the deficit problem in the city, but we also think that we should not be the only ones making sacrifices. And we do hear things, we see things, and we don't think it's fair. We see people getting raises and things of that nature, and it's just not fair. And I don't think that the deficit should be balanced solely upon our backs. And I just appeal to you guys, to some of us, it's survival. And we don't have extra resources. And we're already being cut to the quick. And it's just to further do furloughs. I mean, if that's an option, if that's something that we have to do, I think it needs to be done from the top up, bottom down, cross east, west, north, and south of this building, and not just upon general employees' backs. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council and staff. I'm Ronald Davis from the 2nd District. I wanted to bundle up items 8, 9, 10, and 11, and I would suggest, in the interest of saving time, you guys should bundle them up too and just say, wait for the reading, approve everything. Because we have to have a city where there's law and order. And it doesn't look like this is costing anybody a fortune at all. In fact, a lot of it is asset forfeiture stuff. So I hope that's what you folks will do with those 4 items. And I'm looking down on page 4, right down at the bottom. It's DR4 finance. I'd echo the sentiments of folks who have spoken earlier. This is probably, again, the toughest thing that a lot of the folks sitting on this dais will probably have to do. I hope it is. I don't want it to get worse. But I want to believe, and I do believe, that you guys are going to try and have tried to make the best decisions.
You said you didn't want what?
I said I don't want this to get worse.
Oh, okay.
Because really, I think this. I've been in this city since 1980 is when I first moved here. I moved to OC in 83 and came back in 85 and came back in 88. And this is the first time I've ever heard of this city having to lay off people. And I know it's not easy for you. I believe you have consciences. I do. So I hope you've thought through everything, and I'm praying for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Kevin Monk. I'm a staff member of SEIU Local 721. And just very briefly, we understand that in negotiations things happen, but we now have employees that are having to move in with family members, employees losing their homes, employees having to take their children out of particular schools. And we understood the sacrifice 2 years ago when we made the sacrifice to take the furlough days and to do what we had to do to save the city. But we believe also that it's fiscally irresponsible, to have on the agenda while we're in negotiations talking about continuing pay cuts, continuing furloughs, that we have to look at things like automobile allowances on the agenda when there's supposed to be no money. You're asking us to continue to swallow this pill when you're talking about, increasing the expense accounts. Yet we have to sit across the table from people that are getting these benefits and tell them that we will accept it. And we believe that it's no longer that kind of day, and no longer will the employees of Inglewood sit back and just be run over. We're here tonight to let you know that we're going to stand, we're going to fight for our families, we're going to fight for our jobs, and we believe that this city and this city council can do the right thing, and we're here to make sure that it happens. So we just wanted to show up and let you guys know that we're here, we're watching, and we're listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monk.
My name is Diane Zambrano. I live in District 4, and I got to tell you, every budget has been an adventure. I've just pulled out of my archives the one from 2003 salary ordinance, and it is interesting to me that on page 18 of the 2003 salary ordinance, one of the significant salaries is that of the city administrative officer. At that time was $14,000 a month, and now we're at 20. When we get down to the mayoral position, it's at $7,875 a month. We get down to the council members, it's $3,000. Surprise. 937. Isn't it cute? Everywhere I go, people go, yeah, good thing I can read lips, because microphone doesn't usually seem to work when you're there. I guess today would not be particularly different. But you know, it's interesting. As I look at those numbers, we sit here and we tell the people in the lower levels that are making the $12 and $15 an hour that they cost us too much. I don't know how you can sit there after that great long market value we heard about last week and sit there and actually approve the budget with your salaries as high as they are at the expense of the park employees, the library employees, the people who actually interact with the residents of this community. You know, you went brouhaha over Manchester, I think for TV time on the shuttle. But you know what's really sad? Some of us live near Crenshaw and Imperial, which looks pretty crappy. Some of us live near Prairie, which looks worse. By the way, since I'm on it, why on earth did one gas station guy have to make his place look nice, and the new one just goes ahead and trashes the place and it's okay? Could it be that he's away from across the street from that new $21 million gift of a grocery store that, well, I guess we don't really care about the other ma and pa's down the street like we did when Walmart was thinking about it, huh? And Walmart wanted to use its own money. That was a different story. So let's get back to the budget. I didn't see a line item on there for the new car sales that's going on over there at Hollywood Park. Huh. Is that a gift to, I'm not sure who? Because someone's probably going to get some money off of that. What's our percentage? I didn't see it in the budget.
Mayor, council, staff. My name is Aaron DeVille, work with Public Works, City of Inglewood. And I, too, talk to a lot of my fellow constituents. And there's a lot of us that are disgruntled about the raises and everything that's going on. And you're asking us to take more furloughs, okay? Along with, like the lady mentioned, about per diems for cars. It's like you guys want us to make all the sacrifices to save the city, but we're not getting anything in return. Everybody's salaries are the same. People getting raises and things like that. The upper floors are making all the money, but they're doing it with our sweat and tears. We are falling apart. Our families are falling apart. And then to get our jobs threatened, if we don't do furloughs, if we don't do this, our jobs are being threatened. These are very hard times for our families. However, to see a city staff elect raises and then threaten us that if we don't do furloughs, we're going to lose our jobs. That is just morally wrong. It's morally wrong. We're being seriously taken advantage of. It's unfair. It's unfair and it's gutless. It's just no heart at all. That's all. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Buenas noches. I want to thank especially this night Officer Ferreira for allowing me to sit on the back of the bus because I'm not a VIP reserved member of the city. And I would like to see if you may be wise enough to bundle, as they say, or as in Spanish it said, put in un ramo, items that has to do with one issue, 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, 9, 10 y 11. Since it reminds me of the incidents that took place in Mexico during the Tlatelolco massacre, when afterwards the Black Panthers have to raise their fist during the '68 Olympics. This really reminds me of this, whether this is the implication of a police state, since we have a mayor that comes from that training and not medical training. I cannot provide you with my name, but I must say, suffice to say that I live here since they used to be the Cadillac dealer right on the corner, and Hispanics and blacks were not allowed to live here. And in my name, well, since for the obvious reasons, I wonder, but suffice to say that I attempted to run against our mayor, but I was prevented from presenting my nomination papers because the municipal code was not available. So please be wise enough to understand our concern and whether we are just having a nightmare or just becoming paranoid.
Thank you. We'll close public comment.
Actually, Mayor, I rise to a point of order.
Your point of order.
Yes, Mayor, it's my understanding that, I'm not sure if I think it took place sometime today, that without any discussion with members of the public or any discussion with members of this body, apparently there's been installed in front of you a particular device being paid for, which is not in the budget. I don't know who asked that money be expended to put a button in front of you that will shut off your colleagues' microphones when they're speaking.
No, actually, no, not when you're speaking. After you've been asked to adhere to the rules, only at that time would you be muted.
Okay. Well, actually, you know what, Mayor? This city has.
Well, actually, this really.
This is the point of order I'm rising to.
Okay,
we've been here
ask your
for
question.
for 104 years. We've never in the history, we've had some demagogues sitting in that center chair in the past. We've never had a mayor who had the ability, who made it a point to install a device so they could shut off the microphone of other equal members of the body during a council meeting. I want to bring that to the public's attention. I, for one, find it appalling. Thank you.
And actually, it wouldn't be while you're speaking. It's if you're out of order. But anyway, item. Excuse me, folks. We're going to have order. We're going to have order. So, Madam City Clerk, item 1, CSA 1 and H1.
Warrant register.
To allow payment. Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin. Aye. Mayor Buds.
Aye. Consent counter items 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
So moved.
I'd like to pull items 5 and 11.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin. Aye. Mayor Buds.
Aye. Item 5.
Resolution establishing a per diem for the city officials and employees, as well as establishing automobile allowance for city employees.
So there's a staff report, Mr. Fields?
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of council. This item is an annual item that is brought forth to the members of the legislative body in order to approve the ability for the city to pay anytime a staff member travels on
No.
city
Would
business.
you go sit
There
down,
is
please?
an
Okay. No.
if there is a need to be able to provide the reasonable and customary per diem or mileage if necessary, this resolution allows that to occur annually. There was a question I would point out brought up by several members who spoke. There is no additional car allowances or anything of that nature being provided to any staff. It has been well over 4 years since anyone was approved to receive a car allowance. That practice was ended several administrations back when we attempted to negotiate with the bargaining groups to eliminate an option where staff were sometimes given that in many years gone by as an additional form of compensation. And we have not been successful in being able to remove that.
Well, actually, that kind of brings it to my point, and that is that there are a lot of concerns with regard to car allowances, and so you're saying we have employees that are entitled to them, and they get them no matter what, regardless of how employees actually feel about it in general?
Yes, ma'am. The bargaining group currently that is in their MOU to receive it is the Inglewood Executive Organization. As part of their group, 9 years ago, reduced it by 50% and left it at that rate since then. The other bargaining group is the Inglewood Management Employee Organization, and that is a variable scenario whereby certain staff in that group were provided a car allowance at various times during their employment, and that is something that we were told by our outside labor attorneys that we could not just unilaterally remove.
Well, it says here that the city manager would make a determination whether any car allowances that are currently being given, if they were no longer necessary, that he would be able to remove them. So what you're telling me, though, that's not actually a true statement.
We were advised 3 years ago when we attempted to, 4 years ago, when we attempted to do that exact process by going through and looking at all of the members of IMEO that received a car allowance, if that could be removed, and we were told by outside counsel that it had to be negotiated away because it was a part of their wages, hours, and terms and conditions of employment.
Well, I guess my point is I'm going to read the language in this resolution. It says, "It is the finding of the council that is appropriate to require the city manager to review all currently authorized car allowances to determine whether any of said car allowances are no longer necessary for the conduct of city business. In the event the city manager determines that certain currently authorized car allowances are no longer necessary for the conduct of city business, the city manager is hereby authorized to terminate the car allowance." Well, apparently that's not true, and I think that misrepresents to the public the city manager's authority in these cases of the car allowance, because, well, it's very clear, it misrepresents to the public. I actually have a question with regard to, and I'd like to ask Mr. Fields this question. Mr. Fields, it does say that no, actually that's a question, well, actually it has to do with the cell phones. It says the executives receive cell phones. Who are the executives specifically? Mr. Fields, specifically.
Mr. Fields, you can have anybody answer that.
Yeah, Michael Falco, our assistant city manager, is responsible for most HR issues, and he's more familiar with that, so I'll let him deal with it. But
I just want you to name your executives. They go to executive staff meeting. Who are the executives that receive cell phone reimbursement?
And what I want to confirm with Mr. Falco is whether or not all of the executives on my executive team do in fact receive the cell phone allowance. Some of the executives do receive cell phones, and others receive an allowance, and so I'm asking him, if you don't mind, to let me know which ones.
Well, actually, I'll ask you a general question.
Okay.
What is the amount? It says is it $35?
Yes.
If they have their own cell phone?
Correct.
And if we pay for it, what does it cost to us?
Actually, the executive organization receives a $50 per month cell phone allowance for the use of a personal cell phone for city use. Non-executive group receives $35.
If we pay for an executive cell phone, if they get it from the city, do we know what those costs are?
Yes, ma'am. We did an analysis about 5 years ago, and we determined that for lack of a better phrase, a Verizon family share plan with approximately 60,000 minutes was far cheaper by
So then we know that if we actually provide the cell phone, it's possibly or probably cheaper than $50 a month to us based on the plan that we have.
Significantly
cheaper. Okay, that's fine. I find it confusing when it says a non-field management employee, which means they're stationed here, non-field, stationed City Hall, receives a $35 per month cell phone allowance. We're field-based, which means they're out in the field working, shall be reimbursed $35 a month or provided a cell phone with only a radio feature enabled. It almost sounds like a field person receives less of a benefit because a cell phone with only the radio feature enabled is actually less than a cell phone. Why would a field person, Mr. Fields, be given a less than a cell phone, whereas people here at City Hall receive a cell phone?
Councilman Dunlap and Mayor, I don't understand what the direction, my assistant city manager, Mike Falco, is in charge of presenting a staff report, why you insist on directing your questions to me when he's here and available and aware of these questions. This resolution is no different than it's been for many years, and so to question the details that you're asking, you've been here longer than I have been here, so I would think that you would know them just as much as I.
I certainly believe you'll understand why I'm going to vote no again this evening.
That's fine.
And actually, Mr. Fields, when a member of this body poses a question to you, I expect you to be prepared to answer it, regardless of the person sitting next to you. I think my questions are somewhat general, and they are not always identical from year to year. Sometimes there's some some changes or alterations. For instance, I would like to know who is provided. I think a list could be made for the public. I mean, this is public information. You all have a right to know who in the city is provided with a cell phone and who in the city is given an allowance. This is public information, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a secret. The state allows you this information. And since Mr. Falco, you mentioned there is an audit done somewhat regularly to make sure that these things are okay. But once again, with regard to the getting back to the car allowance, I would like to know a list. When I say a list made, so any of my constituents who would like to, the information can get it, as well as anyone here this evening. With regard to the car allowance, who gets a car allowance, how much is it, and who has a take-home car, and the estimated cost to the city for these take-home vehicles. Because it's my understanding, if there is a take-home vehicle, not only is it the vehicle provided by the city, but apparently we provide the insurance and the gasoline and so forth. So just as a cost analysis, we are doing the budget tonight, and I think that's just a part of understanding, not that we're for it or against it. It's about just understanding the costs of what these benefits are. And I say several members of the public asked the question about car allowances and so forth, so I think it's incumbent upon us to be able to respond to those questions with accurate information. But I do object to the language in this resolution, which gives the impression that the city manager has a legal authority to do away with car allowances when it's been made very clear here this evening that he does not have that authority. And I would ask that that language be stricken from this resolution before anyone in this body votes for it. Thank you.
All right. Mr. City Manager.
If I can make a couple of clarifications. One, the language is correct because anyone who new comes into the city and if they are are eligible for a car allowance, I do review that. So I am reviewing those still. There are, like the assistant mentioned, there are employees who are currently receiving it who, because of the reasons he stated, I'm unable to remove it from them. And lastly, I'd just like to say that I do appreciate the fact that all members of the council, for the most part, are here every day, and the agendas go out on Thursday. And I do appreciate the council members who come to us, staff, in advance. We don't mind answering questions. It's just to be put on target in this forum when the council members have had the agendas for 4 days. It doesn't make sense that we have to sit up here and be targeted with all these questions so that we're not prepared. We'd like to be prepared if the questions are presented to us in advance.
Well, actually, since I do have, Mayor, since when they set the clock for me, they only set it for 3 minutes, if you don't mind.
No, actually,
Mr. Fields,
she had 6 minutes.
This is a public meeting.
You've had over 6 minutes, Councilwoman.
Excuse me, for the benefit of the public. And I do believe it's appropriate to ask certain questions.
If you want answers to your questions, all I'm saying is let us know in advance, and we will have your answers. But if your intent is to come up here and make
on the agenda,
Councilwoman,
excuse me.
It's time.
You know, why don't you interrupt him?
No, because you've had 6 minutes. It's time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've had 6 minutes. Time is everything. It's not about content. It's not about information.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
That's why he has the ability to shut off our mics.
Councilman Stevens.
You might learn something here if you listen.
Yes, I would like to surrender my time to Ms. Dunlop.
That's now you can't do that.
Okay, then I'll ask the question. Mr. Fields, when is my mic on, by the way? Is this on? I don't even hear it.
Your mic is on.
I don't hear it.
Is it on?
It's not resonating like yours is, sir.
Well, your mic is
like,
on.
Ms. Dunlap's.
Your mic's on. I can't turn them up and down. Just mute.
Well, you do. I witnessed the switch there. But nevertheless, by the way, why do you not have a switch for Councilman Franklin? Well, the switches are identified, Councilman Franklin, as 1, 2, and 3, but there's no 4.
It mutes all of them.
But it says District 1, District 2, District 3. And
okay, Mr. Stevens.
But here's my comment, Mr. Fields. Here's my comment. When did for the record, when did we receive our agenda? You made a comment that council members have 4 days. When did we receive our agenda?
This particular agenda was made available on Friday at 1 o'clock.
On Friday?
Yes.
Now, ordinarily, when is the agenda available?
Thursday evenings.
Thursday evening.
Yes.
And when on Friday was it available?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Yes.
Can you hear him?
Yes.
So,
is his voice amplified?
Yes.
So here's my comment to you, Mr. Fields. I did not know. I came here in the morning. I was here Thursday for my agenda. It wasn't available. I came here Friday morning, wasn't here. Now, I'm an executive. I'm just supposed to continue to come back and forth, back and forth.
No, council member. An email was sent to all the council members letting them know that your packets would be available at 1 o'clock on Friday. That email went out on Thursday evening.
Now, let me ask you this question. Why is it that we cannot do things consistently on a consistent basis? I noticed that with our grant reports, we're always last minute. We're always last minute. It's due Friday, and we're voting on it on that Tuesday, same week. Why is that? Why is it that my agenda could not be prepared for me on Thursday? Why is it that I have to receive it on a Friday, make another trip here, come and obtain it on a Friday, find out that it is here available here? Why is that?
You know, I've worked in 6 different cities, and I can tell you that the agendas never go out on a regular scheduled hour. You know, there are a lot of circumstances that come up with staff and doing staff reports, getting information, and there are circumstances that require us to delay sending it out some nights. I can't give you one particular reason, but it's not like we're trying to stall it or anything. We do our best to get the agendas out on time.
Okay, well, we have very important issues here this evening. Capital improvements, which is deplorable streets, which we're going to be discussing here this evening, as well as our budget, which deals with our employees. And so I would just like to let you know that I do not know that to be the case in other cities.
Okay. Well, the council, Mayor, the CIP and operating budget you've had for over a week now, those were handed out in advance of the meeting last week. Those were handed out in advance of last week's meeting.
Okay. Okay, we're at time. I'd like to ask you a question about the car allowances. It is perplexing. So how many people actually get car allowances?
There are 2 groups that receive car allowance, the executive group per their MOU, and the IMEO group per their MOU provides for it as approved by the city manager. There has been no approval. Last number I recall was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 60 of the 180 members.
Okay.
Could be a little bit more.
And when's the last year that a car allowance was approved?
Prior to 2008.
Okay, there have been none since 2008. Now, so this language is enabling language that must be approved every year for those people that continue to receive it?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Mr. City Attorney, is this language legally sufficient in your estimation? Should it be changed?
No, I don't think it should be changed because it also serves the purpose if employees are deceased or no longer are employed by the city. The city manager then can remove them from the list.
Okay, because I want to make that very clear to the people from SEIU that spoke about this. It would be a shame for people to be getting new car allowances if we're in the situation we've been in for a number of years, but apparently since 2008, no one has received a car allowance, and so we just want to make that really clear.
If I could add,
yes, Councilman Morales.
That in 2008, we actually attempted to dissolve many of the car allowances, and we were hit with a kind of a legal opinion didn't allow us to do so. At that time, we decided we weren't going to add any new car allowances. There was conversations with the pending groups, so we made every effort to do exactly what's being spoken of right here, and now we're doing what's legally required of us.
Yes, sir, you are correct.
All right. Councilman Franklin?
No, I was just going to echo the same sentiments because I know that became an issue during the workforce reduction plan in 2010. And we were reminded by our city attorney that what the parameters were. And so we've still been adhering to those ever since.
And I'll move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Stevens,
No.
Dunlap,
Abstain.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. What was the second
11.
item? 11?
Yeah.
Thank you. Item
Staff
11.
report recommending approval of an agreement with the Omega Group to provide a crime analysis software package along with 2 years of software support and related services.
Move approval, staff report.
Second, staff report.
Item 11.
Chief Honorado.
Just a brief staff report, and I really just want to clarify the use of this particular software for the public's benefit.
The Mega software is a crime-fighting tool that we'll use to enhance our abilities to deliver services in a more efficient and effective manner. Part of the component of this is also a public component where we can give the citizens a more readily available and current crime statistics, something that we've been struggling with a little bit because of our computer systems. Much of we talked about in the previous budget presentation, our CAD, RMS has kind of been restrictive on this. This is going to enable us also to better strategically use those resources so that we can combat crimes and track our abilities for what it is our officers are doing out there more readily available. And really excited about this program. I would also like to add that the actual owner of this company is an Inglewood high school graduate from back in the 70s. Actually met the gentleman that designed this program.
Thank you. That's it, Mayor.
Mayor, I have a comment.
Councilman Franklin?
Yes, following up with Mr. Artie Fields, the city manager's comments with reference to any council member that may have any questions or concerns. That this item was one of those items that I had concerns with the city manager, and I want to thank you, Acting Chief, for enlightening us so I had a better appreciation of the proposal before us, because as I was reading the agreement that the city was going to adopt, it referenced Exhibit A. And I kept looking for Exhibit A only to have you follow up, and I read the email correspondence to reference that the professional contract service from the Oakland County is the one that you're referencing, because I had concerns regarding, I didn't see in the document as to the product and services that was being provided as it identified in the financial funding issues until I was referenced to that item. So I appreciate for that correction. Thank you.
And I appreciate that, Councilman. Give us the opportunity to research that and answer your question. I do appreciate that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I have a question.
Councilwoman Dunlap?
Yes, what other type of software did you have an opportunity to review?
To review in this regard?
Yes.
Councilwoman? Yeah, there was actually several. I traveled down to San Diego in one day in a turnaround time to save money in the budget, obviously, and actually viewed 3 or 4 different types of this similar type of product. This one in particular is really user-friendly, and I particularly like the public component for the crime mapping, because this is something that I know the citizens have been asking for, and rightfully so. And this really met all our needs.
Bless you.
What is it with regard to, you call it crime fighting, what is the advantages to, say, patrol or officers on the street with regard to what is it they'll be able to, as a resource, they'll use the software to benefit them in the work that they do on a daily basis?
This coincides with what we call intelligent-based policing in terms of extrapolating information in terms of crime trends, potentially projecting where criminals may be congregating in terms of parolees being released. All this data will be contained in the software, and then it can be disseminated down to the troops. But also it includes a dashboard component. So even at the executive level, all the captains and mid-managers, including myself, will have the ability to access and track what it is we're doing. So if we, like I like to say, we're doing what we say, and we say what we're doing, and we can track that, and there's a high accountability to this. So it's a good software.
Well, when you mention with regard to parolees, that was an example being released, who is going to be inputting that data?
Well, that information is entered into the county system, and then we would have access that through that. There's certain agreements that are tied into this to databases and so forth that gives us that information. And it's really the future in policing, and it's somewhere where we certainly need to go, in my opinion, and certainly a lot of agencies. I know LAPD and LAS Sheriff's Department are currently conducting a pilot program on this very software right now, as well as a number of other agencies across the country that are using this particular software.
Well, I think it's long overdue for us to have this type of software. Anything that helps, of course, officers on the street, helps the community to know what's going on, will be a real advantage. So I think it's great that this is coming before us at this time. Like I said, it's long overdue, so it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, and again, I'd like to add that the owner of this company is an Inglewood High School graduate. I didn't know that going in, but learned it when I met him.
Chief Runner, one more question. Isn't one of the main advantages of this software is that it allows you to correlate a lot of different databases without rekeying the data and make correlations between things like halfway houses and crimes, parks and crime, so that things that might not ordinarily be apparent become immediately apparent, so that you can deploy resources more swiftly and smarter?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Betts.
Aye. That concludes the consent calendar. DR2.
Staff report recommending approval of a right of entry agreement between the City of Inglewood and KP Auto Center, providing for certain environmental testing and pre-development site preparation work on approximately 2.72 acre of certain city-owned real property located at the southwest corner of Glasgow Avenue and Olive Street.
I move approval, but I know there was some input staff wanted to give in clarification.
And I'll second.
Ms. Tatum.
Yes, just really briefly, this proposed amendment is with KP Auto Center, and since the council received their packets on Friday, there has been additional discussion with the applicant for this agreement, and the recommendation is that the deposit amount that's shown in the agreement and in the staff report of $100,000, that be modified to $50,000. The reasoning for that change is that we have received a $50,000 deposit for the previously City Council approved E&A agreement, and combined with the deposit of $50,000 as a component of this proposed disposition and development agreement, that would together total $100,000. So staff is recommending that City Council approve the proposed right of entry agreement with that modification.
And I would include that in my motion as spoken.
And I second that amendment.
Madam City Clerk.
I need to hear that.
Your motion, Eloy.
It's a motion to approve. However, the clarification is that the $100,000 that's expected as a right of entry deposit be reduced to $50,000. The actual justification for that is that we already have $50,000 deposit here, and it will be combined with an additional $50,000
In the E&A.
in the ENA.
That's correct.
So that's my motion.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Abstain.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Betts.
Aye. DR5. DR4.
Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution approving and adopting the 2012-13 fiscal year budget.
Move approval.
And I second.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members.
Excuse me, this is the budget, right?
I'm assuming that we're going to have an in-depth presentation. We have department heads sitting here. I'm assuming the department heads are going to make presentations once again on their budget to respond to questions that may have been posed or comments last week, as well as the city manager or his designee making an in-depth presentation once again.
Mr. Fields, we made a presentation last week. You're going to make another one?
I just wanted to let the council confirm to council what changes that we've brought back and incorporated in the budget.
Okay.
And just go over a few slides. I have 6 slides that I just wanted to kind of review with the council and the public.
Go right ahead.
So Mayor and City Council, last week staff presented the recommended 12-13 operating budget with several options for balancing the budget. If you will recall, the budget presented last week included a $4 million shortfall as represented in this slide. In order to balance the budget, staff recommended the following: freezing 10 positions and eliminating 1 position for a total savings of $1.3 million, increasing, bringing back to the council a recommendation to increase certain user fees that would generate additional $250,000, and also it includes layoffs of between 28 and 32 employees at a tune of $2.5 million. These 3 points will result in a structurally balanced budget for the first time since FY 07-08. In addition, as pointed out in the staff report, the FY 12-13 budget will also include the inclusion of the salary ordinances that were approved by City Council last week for an additional, which include additional salaries of about $150,000. The transfer of let's see here, oops, go back, there we go. The salary ordinance that was approved last week, the transfer of a 0.5 FTE senior administrative aide, formerly referred to as a community center liaison position, from the mayor and council division budget to the environmental services sanitation budget. In addition, it also includes the transfer of the assistant city manager CFO from the finance department to the administration department. As such, I'm recommending that the City Council approve the FY 12-13 total operating budget totaling $215,753,480, which includes a general fund budget of $82,997,112. I'm also recommending that the City Council direct staff to prepare a workforce reduction plan for your consideration at a later date, and that concludes my overview.
All right. Councilman, would you like to?
It doesn't matter.
Well, I would just like to ask if, yes, I would just like to ask, Mr. Mayor, if my initiatives that I brought forward addressing the capital improvements as well as the actual structure of City Hall, which relates directly to the budget, if we could perhaps go over that first. Would that be possible for us to review CI2?
No, sir. We'll do the initiatives at the end, as we always do.
Well, I had asked the city manager, and he said that he would intercede on my behalf.
Yes, and it's the mayor and the council member's prerogative, and I did ask the mayor if he'd like to do that, and he's letting you know his decision.
But you prepare the agenda, right? Correct.
Well, actually, I chair the meeting.
Right. I do prepare the agenda, but the mayor chairs the meeting.
Okay. Burned once. Okay, no problem. So now, in dealing with and addressing the issue of the budget that you have there, Mr. Falco, I have a PowerPoint inside your laptop there that I would like, if you could please just simply go back to your main screen, and I have a PowerPoint that's there. So can you go to your main screen? I have an icon there. All you have to do is click on it, and then we can start my time at that point.
Mr. Falco, here's what I would suggest. We're not going to don't have time to do a PowerPoint because his time will be up. He's welcome during the time of his initiative to do whatever he chooses then, but he doesn't have time.
Well, I have information that may help you with your decision-making
You may
here,
not interrupt him on his time. You're going to follow the rules of decorum and shut our microphones off? Our rules of decorum state very clearly, Mayor, that once a member of the body is recognized by the chair, they may not be interrupted, not by another member of the body and not by you.
Let him give him his PowerPoint. But your time is running, and I'll give.
But my time is running,
and I'll definitely give you an extra minute. I'll definitely give you an extra minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're paying attention to this.
Very close.
Thank you.
Excuse me, who is that, sir? Mr. Monk. That's out of order, sir. So please don't. But please.
He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're paying attention." I said,
Would you escort him out, please?
Mr. Falco, could I borrow the unit, please? Thank you, sir. All right. Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
I wish to override your decision to have him removed. I do not find it as disruptive.
Actually, we'll take a recess for a moment. Mr. Monk, may I see you back here in my office? We'll take a recess.
I tell you what, I'm gonna walk out on my own.
But could we come back to order? Excuse me, folks.
Think you can do that tonight?
Folks, we're going to come back to order. Now, you know, I just want to say something real quick, folks. I'm really, I understand that we talk about a lot of things that people are passionate about, and I understand people have different points of view, but we're really going to have a more orderly meeting, and I've taken steps to just try and make that happen. Mr. Muck and I had a discussion, and he fully understands my position. I don't want to remove anyone from this council chamber. That's not what it's about. But this isn't a rally. It's not like pick your sides and, ooh, I like what he said, and so I root for that. It's a meeting, and we're going to keep it a business meeting. And I'm just going to read the rules of decorum just so that everybody knows. The rules of decorum set forth above shall be enforced in the following manner. With a warning, the presiding officer shall request that a person who is breaching the rules of decorum be orderly and silent. If after receiving a warning from the presiding officer, a person persists in disturbing the meeting, the presiding officer shall order him to leave him or her to leave the council meeting. If such a person does not remove himself, the presiding officer may order any law enforcement officers on duty at said meeting as sergeant of arms of the council to remove the person from the council chambers. We don't ever want to do that. We also don't even want to have to enforce the time limits, but unfortunately that's what I need to do. So these are the people's meetings. These aren't here meetings for the purposes of the individual council members. It's a collective business meeting of the people, and that's the way we're going to run the meeting. And I know that some people have issue with that, but so be it. Okay, we're on DR4, and Councilman Stevens was having his remarks. So please start his time. I hope we stopped it. Okay, all right. Please continue with his presentation.
Okay, Mr. Fields, my time was, we're starting at, what are we starting at, Mr. Falco? It was 1:37?
It was 1:38. I'm sorry, Councilman, there's no way for me to actually start it again, so what I'll do is I'll give you an extra few seconds, if that's okay, Mayor.
Just give him a minute. Give him an extra minute.
Okay.
Well, excuse me. The clock when he started speaking was at 3 minutes. It wasn't at 5.
That's incorrect.
That's
it
not
was.
correct.
It was at 3.
No, it was not. In the middle of his time, I mistakenly hit the button that took it back to 3. So he took it back to at the point where he left off, which was 1 minute and then 30 seconds were left.
Okay. Mr. Fields, have I addressed anything pertaining to what I'm requesting to be recognized?
But I'll tell you what. Just give him 3 minutes, all right? Okay. Give him 3 minutes.
Mr. Fields, here's my issue. Let's see. This item right here, this is page 3. This is page 3 of the budget. If you could turn to page 3. Now, if you take a look at page 3, right here, right there at the top line there, that I have there, it's the gas tax fund.
Right.
If you notice there, we have here $4,411,393 in gas tax revenue in surplus. Is that correct? That's the ending balance.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Mr. Fields, if you take a look at the next down to line item 065, measure R, you see where we have there, what is that figure, sir? $2,399,758.
That's correct.
Dollars, correct?
That's correct.
And that's our ending balance, correct?
Correct.
So my question, Mr. Fields, is this, is that when we look at capital improvements, which is part of this item here, and you turn to capital improvements, which is why I was hoping that we could take my initiatives out of sequence so I could share this information with my colleagues. And we'll always have more information for them, but it'll come after the fact, of course. In capital improvement, you've only identified $1,180,000. That's right here at the top, right here, in capital improvement. And once again, if you go back, then that's under Measure R. if you go back to Measure R, to the page once again, here you show that we have a surplus. We have $4,411,303 in reserves. The question becomes the difference between the two. The difference between the two. That money, Measure R, is used for what, Mr. Fields?
For streets.
For streets. And my streets in my district are deplorable as well as throughout this city. So why are we having a reserve when it comes to Measure R funds?
You know, in the
and
past,
not using that money to pave the people's streets. Why are we not doing that? And that amounts to, what would you say that would be? That would be just for Measure R gas tax alone. What would that be? That would be about $3 million, wouldn't it?
yes.
So why are we not using that for paving the people's streets in District 1, as well as District 4 and District 2 and District 3, the areas that are not CDBG?
Right.
Why?
What we try and do and what's happened in the past is every year that you've approved a CIP budget, you approve more money than the city staff is able to get done. So what we've tried to do with this budget is more accurately reflect what we believe we can accomplish in the year that we're doing it. So in the event that we can get the streets that we've identified completed with the amount of money that's budgeted, and I can come back and ask the council to expand the amount of streets that we're doing, we would do that. But at this point, I've asked my engineering staff to put together the most aggressive CIP project that they can put in. That is, I don't want to misrepresent expectations in the community and put a budget number there that
Mr.
we will not be able to meet.
Councilman Stevens, you're at time, and I'm sure you'll have more time with your initiative, but.
Well, this is the budget, though.
I know, but you're at time, sir.
People's streets need, the streets
Sir,
are deplorable.
Sir, you're at time, and you'll have more time later.
There's more money. There's more accounts that have money that can be used.
Okay.
Very well, Mr. Butts.
Thank you.
Very well, sir.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Very well.
may we recognize?
Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you. Let me just go along, since my colleague referenced the Measure R funds. Particularly, Measure R funds are for highway specific, not residential. And when you do the Measure R funds, you present them in a package. And in particularly, the Measure R funds has been appropriated is currently to handle the LED lighting that's going to go up and down the major boulevards, and also where it has a direct impact near the freeway access, as well as Manchester and Century Boulevard. Should also add that with the Measure R funds, we are looking specifically with reference to the freeway off-ramp onto Manchester Boulevard, where it's being modified through the Measure R funding, as well as the remodification of La Cienega Boulevard. So when you're talking about Measure R fund specific, you want to reference that you're focusing on the highway and not the gas tax that is being identified in the non-CDBG area, which covers the residential area. So I just want to make sure we get that clarified. Thank you, Mayor.
Right, thank you.
Well, yes, I had some
Councilman
comments.
Dunlap.
Yes. Go back to page 3 of your slide presentation. And actually, Mr. Fields, I would prefer that you assume when a member of the body makes a statement that you would assume its accuracy. You see, when Mr. Stevens started speaking, I specifically looked at the clock and it said 3 minutes. Specifically. That's not to say when you hit the button later on when we were changing it on a break, it didn't show 3 again and you were doing something with it. That's true. But he started with 3. Just as right now I have 5 minutes and you started the clock at 3. Now it's at 2.
I did not start the clock.
Well, you know what?
Well, like you said,
It's
let's
2 minutes. All right, you
represent.
didn't
Let's
push
be
the
accurate.
button, but
I didn't push the button.
The point is, he started at 3. He didn't have 5. Now you started me at 3, and I wanted at 5. It's bad enough that we have a $215 million budget affecting this entire community, the services that are rendered. I get complaints every day about the streets that are unpaved, the streets that are falling apart, the 400 block of 64th Place. I mean, all over my district, as in all the rest of the city, residential neighborhoods, the streets are falling apart. They need work, and we can only talk for 5 minutes? For 5 minutes? Well, actually 3 minutes in the case of my colleague to my right. 5 minutes is ridiculous. This is a meeting of the city council. The purpose of the chair is to protect the deliberative process. That means that any member of this body, we have questions, we're trying to deal with these issues, we should have the opportunity to ask those questions, to get answers, to make presentations, to present our point of view. That's an appropriate meeting. It's not about watching the clock and cutting off discussion. $215 million budget, and we're given 5 minutes. That's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to this community. People watching saying, wait a minute, these are my tax dollars and my representatives don't even get to speak and ask questions? That's not number, well, it's at page 3. No, whichever one that showed the senior administrative aid in the general fund. Actually, I don't believe it was his. I believe it was yours. You can stop the clock, please. It says transfer of a part-time senior administrative aide, formerly referred to as the community central liaison, from the mayor and council position to the environmental services. Well, how could we be paying someone out of the general fund, hiring new people out of the general fund? This says that they were being paid from the general fund, those 2 part-time people.
While the money was there out of the general fund, we did not have the employees hired at that point in time. When they were hired, that we ended up using, they came on board after we got the waste hauler money on board, and we hired them with using those funds.
Well, then why, if you hired them, why did, this is completely, once again, misinformation. I don't understand this halftime. When it came to us, and I'm going to speak to this again under my initiative, but when it came back to us, we said, wait a minute, I asked the question, community central liaison, who are these people? You had them under our budget. And then you said, well, they're going to be moved in 2012-13
Correct.
to sanitation. Well, that's what you have here, but it says on this PowerPoint that they were paid, they were hired as a senior administrative aide, which I wasn't aware we're hiring senior administrative aides, and they're being paid with general fund money. So you're saying none of these people were paid any salary until the beginning of this next fiscal year?
No, I'm saying that when we...
Okay, that's good enough. So you're saying they were not paid any general fund money?
They were not paid any general fund money. We ended up paying them with the waste hauler funds.
Okay, well, I don't even recall this council approving these new positions. And
They've been in there since, they were there the year before I got here. They were in the budget.
I'm not aware that we have this approval. Certainly, they were never in the mayor and council office before.
They were in fact in the mayor's.
Excuse me.
You're misstating it, Councilmember Dunlap.
You know what, Mr. Fields, you can contradict me, you can criticize me, you can call me names for an hour. The mayor will not interrupt you.
Well,
Let
you can
me
look.
have my 5 minutes.
You can. It's facts. You can look in the budget document, and it has a position listed.
Let me talk, please.
Let her.
Yeah, because like I said, the mayor will give you an hour to contradict me, criticize me, and call me names. But
I've never called you a name, Councilmember Dunlap.
The point is, I'm very concerned that we're hiring people. Senior administrative aide, did we lay off any part-time senior administrative aides, Mr. Falco? Or can you answer, Mr. Fields?
No, we did not. No, we did not. Don't be condescending, Councilmember Dunlap.
I'm not. You said you don't want to answer the question.
If you answer me the question on an item that I presented, I'm more than happy to answer for you. No, the answer is no.
We did not lay off at
No,
any
I did
time.
not lay off any, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm saying, did the city lay off? Would you like Mr. Falco to answer? I don't mind.
I've answered the question. If you don't like my answer, I can ask Michael to answer it.
No. So we did not lay off any senior administrative part-time aides?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
At any time? Mr. Falco, did we lay off, when we did our layoff a couple of years ago, did we lay off any senior administrative aides part-time?
I do not believe we laid off any senior administrative aides, but I would have to go back and look at the workforce reduction plan. I believe there were 19 full-time positions that were eliminated. There was quite a number of seasonal and part-time positions, but again, without looking at the document.
And then also, in the event that we did lay off someone, they would have the opportunity to apply for the position if it was open.
Excuse me,
I'm answering your question.
Councilwoman Dunn is answering.
You know what it says here? It says, once a member of the body has been recognized by the chair, they may not be interrupted. He's been constantly interrupting me the entire time I've been speaking. Completely interrupting me. I want to know if the people who were laid off were given an opportunity to apply for these 2 part-time jobs.
That's correct. They were.
Okay.
Well, you know, it's funny because when I talk to the workforce, they have no knowledge of
Councilwoman, we're
this.
at time. Thank you.
Did you reset the time to the 5 minutes, Mr. Falco?
Yes, he did.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Thank you.
All right. Any other council comments? I'll tell you what, I have a couple comments. First of all, this is actually the 3rd time that we've discussed the budget. 2 weeks ago, all the department heads made their presentation of their operations. A week ago, Mr. Falco, the city manager, and Sharon Quakey made a presentation of the actual numerical budget, and this is just a discussion of the amendments. And I also find it odd that 3 members of the body can get in their questions and what they want to do within 5 minutes regularly. So I don't think that that's an unreasonable length of time. I am intending to moderate the debate, and that means have an equal balanced debate so that people can receive information. I also think it's unfair when you ask questions that are pointed and accusatory to not let staff respond. I don't think that that's fair. So I don't think that's interrupting. I think that's asking questions. Madam City Clerk.
I need to add to the recommendations. I was asked to do that. It's to adopt the resolution, and also it is recommended that the City Council direct staff to prepare a workforce reduction plan for the consideration at a later date.
Excuse me, is that the motion that was made by a member of the body, Madam City Clerk? Is that what was, I'm just curious. Who made the motion?
I made it. And I am aware that that's something we need to do in case that's the direction that we need to go, so I will include it in my motion.
Okay, well, actually, since it's a new motion, we each have 5 more minutes to speak. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the debate for the new motion to 2 minutes, and if there needs to be a vote of the body, if 3 people disagree with that, but we're going to limit that to 2 minutes. So if it's a new motion, please.
I move that we have the 5 minutes that we should be allotted, as our rules of decorum permit us to speak for 5 minutes.
I'll second that.
Madam City Clerk.
Council members Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
No.
Franklin? No. Mayor Buds?
No. Folks, and again, this isn't a popularity contest, so if you can't restrain yourself, please step out in the hallway. All right? Any council comments?
Yes.
Councilman Stevens?
Mr. Falco, could you reset my
He has to give you
PowerPoint?
2 ones. He has to give you 2 ones. They can't do it 2.
Beg your pardon, what?
He has to give you 2 1-minute intervals. It doesn't do 2. He'll set it over at 1.
No, I'm referring to my PowerPoint. I would like to show before my time starts running. Thank you, sir. You know, one of the interesting things, colleagues, is that when you do not have discussion on items, sometimes colleagues can have misinformation. Mr. Franklin my colleague, Mr. Franklin from the 4th District, said that Measure R money, as well as also, what did he say? The Measure R money, that it could not be used on local streets, that it could only be used on highways. Well, that is the highway component. And being a member of the South Bay COG, which we'll get to that in a moment, he did not mention that there's the local match. The local match is what I was referring to, Mr. Fields, when I made the statement of $2,399,758 available for street repaving. And as you stated, Measure R monies can be used for that. That's the local portion, not the highway portion of Measure R. The other component was the gas tax funds, which can also be used for residential streets, and that balance that you have in that account is $4,411,393. So the magical question, with the streets falling into disrepair as they are throughout the city of Inglewood and District 1, District 2, District 3, and District 4, is why are we not spending this money? And you've given me your explanation that, well, you have this concept that somehow, that basically you just wish this money to sit in an account. But this is the funny thing about this, is that in doing so, in the capital improvements, you have a reserve. But here's the magical part. Here's the other odd part. Right here, where it identifies that you've had expenditures, your expenditures you show of the total amount of $6,433,711. Remember, $6,433,711 is what's available for repaving our streets. $4,411,393 is what you leave in the account. But there's this $2,022,318, which is right here. Yeah, right there. It's right there.
Okay,
That
Councilman.
really you do not account for. It's not in the capital improvements. It's not listed there. And the
Okay.
bottom line is that
Councilman-
you're saying that you have a
Councilman-
budget shortfall of $4 million.
Councilman Stevens, your time, sir. Mr. Fields, if you had any answer to that, please, so we can move on.
Yes. That's only part of the question.
What's your
Go ahead.
time?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The item, the $2 million item is included in the CIP, and if you'd like, I could have Mr. Braden come up and explain where that money is being
Sure,
spent.
go, please.
The 2 million, how we're spending the $2 million in gas tax.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, staff.
Let me confirm,
Sir.
Mr. Braden, the amount that we're spending on gas tax for streets, is this amount represented, or is that the amount that we're spending for operational, the $2 million here?
The second statement, sir, is correct to my knowledge, and that is we are spending gas tax monies in the proposed budget. However, the gas tax monies, based on consultation between Finance Department and Public Works, is being shifted to maintenance projects for street. And that is based on two factors. One is recommendation of finance, and two is it's a need to be able to provide savings as well, critical savings on your general fund. Another factor is at the last presentation that we made from Public Works for our CIP, we noted that we're only committing to problems or to projects that we can look you in the eye and commit will get done next year. In other words, give you realistic numbers. The fact that there is a balance carrying over in some of your special funds is a good thing that can be addressed, and is precisely why you have a multi-year CIP. Once the new Public Works Director comes on board, and once another critical milestone is achieved in about a month and a half, and I would defer to the Finance Director for details, but that is an audit by the State of California to prepare your annual street report, you'll have an authenticated amount of balance in your funds. Based on when we know exactly what that number is, you'll then be able to proceed with recommendations from Public Works to Council with revising the scope of work. And perhaps we'll have some good news for you after that point as far as expanding the amount of work proposed. Right now, it's a cautious approach. I would certainly be the first to admit that, because we want to be able to make you a promise and deliver on that promise. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Dunlap. You asked for more time.
Yes, excuse me. I
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate that information, and actually that is the kind of information that I think is appropriate to be given at a public meeting, to help the public understand how this money is being spent and what's being done with regard to our streets and why there may be a delay. It's appropriate, and Mr. Fields, that is what this meeting is about, and I'll address to you too, to the chair, Mayor. That's what this is about, us to get this kind of information, because when just looking at these documents, it's not enough. It doesn't give the full picture, and sometimes it's really kind of misinforming us. So when is this audit that you think that we're going to be getting, and when do you anticipate that? With regard to the monies you mentioned.
I would defer to the Finance Director, but I understand it's coming up soon. It typically begins in the month of October, and I would defer to the Finance Director for more details if you wish, Council Member.
Yes, please.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We get an annual street report, and the street report is currently, it's being prepared by the state of California, their auditor. He'll come out in either October or November. And at that time, what Mr. Braden is referring to is he goes through our street expenditures, and at that time we'll have a better idea of exactly where we are on that. In reference to how those monies are spent, it does support the general fund in supporting the maintenance efforts on the street projects.
You're talking about street maintenance?
Yes.
For the neighbors, all right. Thank you
Yes.
very much. And also, I want to make a comment. This is to the chair. When a member of the body speaks to the city manager prior to the meeting with regard to having him present or discuss some information, some questions that a member of the body presented earlier. For the chair to overrule that discussion doesn't make sense to me at all. Meaning, my colleague to my right mentioned that he spoke to Mr. Fields with regard to his initiatives. Could they be incorporated into the report? That makes that seems reasonable to me, and I think that should have been accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Morales.
Thank you. Just briefly, in addition to much of what was said here, I just want to clarify to the public that when you're talking about these type of funds, for instance, the gas tax fund and CDBG funding, a lot of times cities like ours, what they do to give relief to the general fund is that since the gas tax funds are only qualified to be used, yeah, you can pave streets, but you could also use them for maintenance of certain parts of the city. What happens is part of those gas tax funds get shifted over to give the relief to the general fund, and then because the general funds we can use for a variety of different uses. So in our city, I wanted to point out that gas tax funds that has been used in that fashion for a number of years, CDBG funds as well. We could say, of course, that gas tax funds, all of them can go right to the street. However, since so many parts of the city have been relying on CDBG funds and gas tax funds, what you would do, you'd end up putting a really big burden on the general fund. And we cannot absorb that right now. So I wanted to say that those are part of the things that are happening when certain funds come up and are in question, and it looks like they're not being fully utilized, but that's how it gets shifted around in a city like ours, and I just wanted to clarify that. I don't know if anybody wanted to add that.
Okay. Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And not being redundant from my colleagues' comments, I want to reach out to the city manager and our acting public works director, because the 6 minutes or a few minutes we have here today is only a scratch of the surface of the multiple hours I've had with the city manager, assistant city manager, and Harry Frisbee, who's not here this evening, over the multiple number of street requests, alley requests, and other budget items that has been an aggregate to be where we are this evening. And so we clearly understand in our discussions as to what items would be in the current budget, and that's why you have a master street plan that is over a 5-year plan. So then that way those streets that are not able to get included for repairs in this year's budget, that they've already been pre-identified for subsequent years. So that's why it's critical to be able to have these regular weekly dialogues to be able to address those public concerns that the residents give me, and which we then intertwine them into the budget, which is here before us tonight. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Mr. Braden, I only need 30 seconds. Could you come forward, please? One, the fact that we have a surplus is not a bad thing, is it?
It is not, sir.
Okay. The purpose of the showing a plan that doesn't expend all the funds in a fiscal year is because realistically, we don't know that we have the capacity to do that. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so to put that out there and set expectations that all those streets would be done when we don't know we have the capacity, that's what you meant by when you said by being conservative.
Absolutely, sir.
So
yes.
there is no sin as long as we aggregate those funds and keep them for street repairs and do them as we have capacity, then we win. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. Right. You want to match what the engineers have been rate, how much you're spending per month to the resources you have, both people and money. It's a good thing that you have a projected surplus right now. It'll be a better thing and a blessing once the state auditors confirm that to the satisfaction of the finance director, because that means the new public works director will be able to come back in the future and make recommendations for additions to the CIP.
Well, it's very good to have a surplus. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap.
No.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. DR5.
Staff report presenting the fiscal year 2012-2013 capital improvement project.
Move item 1 and 2.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
I'd like to speak to capital improvement.
All right, Councilman Stevens.
No, I'd like to staff.
Staff report.
Staff report.
Good evening again, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff. Tonight, Public Works revisits the capital improvement program budget and capital improvement plan that was presented 1 week ago. We would like to respectfully request consideration and approval of the budget and plan as presented. We have received direction from both city manager as well as council subsequent to the last council meeting, and have been directed by city manager to incorporate that in a revised CIP that will be published upon your approval. Earlier today, a memo was prepared to the mayor and council members through Mr. Fields, city manager, which listed some of the amendments reflecting city council direction to date. Specifically, some adjustments to Project P609 Van Ness Avenue resurfacing and Project P610 Imperial Highway improvement. The details are specified in the budget, and I won't burden you with all the details except to note this is precisely the reason why you want to have a multi-year CIP and have flexibility to adjust, because numbers can change. In this specific instance, the primary source of funding for the two projects is a grant fund, STPL, and the agency performing design and project management for the city is Los Angeles County Department of Public Works. Because of their due diligence, they're able to save over $1 million in projected cost on this project and are recommending adjustments in the project budgets for these two projects. The details and the numbers are in your memo, but again, I think this reflects the importance of having operational flexibility and recommending the projects, because these numbers can change. Balances need to be verified before you go forward and act on the projects. Regarding additional flexibility, projects P220, P232, P620, and P628, which are listed in your CIP, are projects that represent street, alley, and sidewalk segments for refurbishment in the new fiscal year. The sidewalk and street segments have not been specifically identified yet because they will be based on the overall condition index, which is determined from your pavement management study, and your engineering staff will be determining scope of work in the new fiscal year. Again, the scope of work will be adjusted depending on what the engineers find in the field and depending on the fund balances, which will be verified in the coming month to 2 months. And again, I want to emphasize that it's the firm hope of Public Works, and I'm sure the new Public Works Director, that he will be able to come back in the near future and recommend additions to the scope of work that's recommended to you tonight.
Thank you, sir. Any council comments?
Yes, so Mr. Brayton. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Brayton, this is our budget right here. Right here we have a total of $6,433,711 right here. Now, we have and this is dealing with just the gas tax fund, which you mentioned is part of capital improvements. So now we have $411,393 in an ending balance, which is right here, which is in the account that you're referring to. That is a good thing. People do not need their streets repaved. It's better because later on our public works director is going to come in and all that. Okay, fine. All right, here's my issue. I don't think that's fine what you're saying, but I have to accept it. This is from DR5, from this document here, right here. Now, I've got a reserve here, an ending balance of $4,411,393 of what you say the future public works director is going to, I guess, administrate. I've got $2,022,318 that's just basically missing. Well, it's not. It's missing because you're not accounting for it. And okay, but yet in DR5, in this document right here, which we're on right now, you make no mention of right here of the gas tax. Now, why is that? If this is capital improvement program budget, it seems to me that somewhere there, sir, somewhere there, you should have some mention of a gas tax. You should either mention the missing $2 million that can't be accounted for. It's there. It's there. We have $2 million somewhere. You've stated that. The $4,411,393 that's in that's the ending balance that isn't being used to repave streets. It's not there. You haven't even mentioned the in your capital improvements project the money that you are proposing to spend there. So just exactly How accurate is all this? Where is that mentioned at? If you could just tell me where it's mentioned at in this document, because I've looked, I can't find it.
I can tell you exactly where you can find it. If you look in your, I'm not sure if you have your budget document with you, but on pages 213 and 234, 217, I'm sorry, and 234, it outlines exactly how that $2 million that you're saying is missing is being spent.
Wait a minute. Here. I know, number one, you know I don't have my budget with me. Number two, we're dealing with capital improvement. It should be listed here, Mr. Fields.
No, it should not.
As they measure our money for
as
streets.
was mentioned earlier.
Are streets capital improvement?
They are
Yes,
capital
they are.
improvements, but all of the money, if you want, we can go through and list for you. We have the pages open right now if you don't have your book in front of you, and I can tell you how the $2 million is being spent.
Why can't you tell me? Why,
I can tell you.
Why is it not written there?
It's not a project. That's why it's not been written.
Okay, this is my problem, colleagues. I'm given documents to review. I'm given a budget book.
Right.
I'm given a capital improvements documents. And then I, in the end, I'm not given all of the information. No, I'm not giving. You step forward. You give us the analogy of that we have. What you're going to be doing with this ending balance with our public works director, Mr. Braden. Mr.
There are two different numbers that you've mentioned: the $2 million and the $4 million. He was correct in telling you what our plan is. We want to, one, confirm that $4 million is correct with the audit that we're going to receive. In addition,
you want to confirm that
exactly, and then second,
it's in your document. It's right here. This is from your book. This I didn't create this. This is from your document, Mr. Fields.
Right. So
with
again,
49 seconds left, let me continue. Let me continue. So now here we have capital improvements, but we have another issue here. We have also the local portion, which is another $2 million, which is right here. $2,399,758 in local return. That money can be spent on residential streets. That's in your budget, which is right here. Right there. Now, nowhere in capital improvement, right here, if you can just tell me, it says here local return. You have listed here $1,180,000. That's right here. $1,180,000. Yet you have this in reserve of $2,399,758.
Okay.
How can we be this far? How can we be that far out of whack?
Okay,
and then you have actually available for projects. You have here $3 million for projects.
Councilman, you're at time. Could you answer the last question, sir?
Yes, sir. I will stand by my earlier answers because I'm firmly in the belief they're correct, and that is that we want to take a conservative approach in public works and only commit to what we can spend. And second, that it's advisable both by the Public Works Acting Director, the City Engineer, and the Finance Director that you take a conservative approach and wait for the results of the state auditors to determine the actual balance. And at that time, you can adjust the scope of work upwards. In regards to Measure R, the Councilman's comments are absolutely 100% correct in that there is a Measure R local City Fund 065, and there is a Measure R Street and Highway 071, and there is programming for both. What I will kindly and respectfully also would like to point out is Public Works is in the process of projecting and presenting to you a capital budget. A budget, we're only presenting one side. Your finance director is the qualified expert to be able to speak to the other side of the ledger book, which is the revenue. And in order to be able to balance revenue and expenditures, you can't look at just a CIP budget. You also have to look at the entire document. And that's a much larger process, and certainly I will be the first to admit I'm not addressing here, but your expert is right here if you wish to query about that.
Thank you, Mr. Braden.
Thank you, sir.
Any further council comments?
Yes, I have some.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Yes. Actually, I do believe, Mayor, that we should have had budget study sessions as this member of the body requested. Then I don't think we would be having these concerns on the evening that the budget and the capital improvement plan is for the projects is up for adoption, meaning that we were told we were going to have budget study sessions over a period of time. with a free exchange of information between members of the body and the city manager. And actually, it should be in the public. It shouldn't be behind closed doors, as people are suggesting, that we shouldn't be asking questions in public. And the people in the audience would be able to. That's not what happened. We had, you mentioned this is the third time. Well, the first time was a marathon session till 1 in the morning, and members of the public weren't even here when it ended. They had no opportunity to ask questions because they weren't here. And there were no numbers presented. It was pretty much staffing and things of this nature. Really was not a budget at all. Sort of an overview of the department, which was helpful, meaning I think an overview of what the services provided by each department to be given on an annual or biannual basis is always a good idea. But it was certainly not informative with regard to the budget. Yes, and we did hear the budget presented again last week with a PowerPoint, but it was very brief. The kind of in-depth discussions that should have been taking place did not. And believe me, other cities do not pass budgets like the city of Inglewood does. They literally have hours and hours of open public sessions of budget sessions. Open public, maybe with questions, not only for members of the body, like are being asked, but by the public as well. And we don't have to agree with the questions. We don't have to think they're good questions. It doesn't make any difference. People have a right to ask what they want to ask for clarification and so forth. This is part of the transparency by which this government should operate. But we failed to do that, and this is the consequence. At the last minute, something's being adopted with very little information. Now, I have a question. This is brought up this evening and brought up last week. Somewhere in this capital improvement plan, we're in the budget, are we seeking some grant money or something to design a bicycle path throughout the city so that we can start seeking grants to put those bicycle paths in?
I'm not aware of any grants for bicycles, but
well,
Mr. Brady,
actually, there are grants out there to actually construct them, but to be eligible for a grant, one must have a bicycle plan for the city. You can't apply for grants until you have the plan, the design for where you want. And until we get that in place, we're not eligible for the grants. That's my point. So I've been asking for this for a long time. We need to do it. We've got members of the public coming up and asking us. We should not be just ignoring them. Bicycling is very important in today's world with regard to trying to cut down on driving in cars, and it's for exercise and so forth. So we need to develop that for our city. We can't just be behind the curve all the time and doing things, 10, 15 years later than everyone else. So I do want to make sure that we're doing that and that it's included. Let's see. What else? I want to place it on the record with regard to the I know I have a question. You mentioned when are we going to determine the individual streets? And one is hoping that there's some equity amongst all the districts with regard to the streets, Mr. Fields, whether they are highways, whatever, residential, meaning the amount of square footage, if you may, however they do it. There should be some equity, whether it's CDBG, gas tax, or whatever funding it is, Measure R.
Yes. I have been working with staff regarding equity among council districts, and so when we bring back a street implementation plan, that will be taken into consideration. You'll see how we're being equitable in our expenditure of those funds by district.
Okay, well, I definitely expect that to take place, and I want it clearly defined with regard to however you do, whether it's linear, square, I don't know how they do it, square feet, linear feet, with regard to street maintenance, resurfacing, so forth, to make sure that there is equity amongst all of the districts, because the streets are falling apart throughout this city, and there's different funding sources, but regardless of the funding source, with regard to the amount of square feet redone in each district, I want it to be equitable, and I think the public expects it to be equitable, and I don't think they will want to accept anything else.
And more than that, rather than looking at it by just simply linear feet, some of the streets require more work and are more costly. So what we're looking at is the total budget spent in each department, each council district, as opposed to linear feet.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Morales.
And that's what I was going to say. We've had this conversation before in terms of the dollars. And I too want, just like my colleague to the left, want to thank you. We've had countless conversations in regard to capital improvements in our district. I've shared some of the streets that really are necessary, and you're right. It's about how they're going to be redone, because the residents themselves really understand whether it's going to be cement or whether it's going to be just asphalt. So those are things in capital improvements, but there are some huge projects that are in line, which I don't want to oversee. A lot of work has been done in terms of gathering the funds from various areas to be able to not only talk about things like Century Boulevard, but really them to become a reality. So I just wanted to point that out before that gets overlooked in this budget, but it's there. So thank you.
Okay, Councilman Franklin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Also, just want to echo the concerns of equity among the colleagues, but also keep in mind the mayor's at large. So we need to balance the funding appropriately. And then also the residents need to be mindful the process that it takes to ultimately do the street repairs, because you do have the time frame that you have for planning, and then the RFP that goes out, and then not all of the projects are surrounded specifically for the city itself. They may have other agencies, such as we talked about Van Ness and Imperial Highway, where we are dealing with the County of Los Angeles, who's actually leading the way for the repairs of those boulevards as well. So I want to make sure that we do, in fact, identify. And the other thing I want to stress, if we're going to resurface a street, make sure that we take care of things within the street. So if the water lines, sewer lines, fiber optic cables, et cetera, need to be done in advance, make sure we identify that first before we then actually do the repair. The last thing we want to do is have a nice, beautiful surface and then realize, well, we failed to understand that we had exceeded the life expectancy of a sewer line. Now it's collapsed, and now we got to do the repair work. Thank you, Mayor.
I want to echo the concerns of everyone as it relates to the streets, but you have a really multi-layered situation to deal with. Not only is it the amount of repairs, linear feet, you have to take into account, as Councilman Franklin is so intelligently mentioned, the fact that we don't want to tear up streets after we have recently paved them, but also there's the issue of triaging our streets. There are some streets that are actually dangerous for the undercarriage of cars. And so what I would hope when we bring back a document that puts together this implementation plan, that we do take into account that there are some neighborhoods whose streets are barely usable, and that we triage it in that manner. But it's critical to me that we marry this with our sewer and improvement plan so that we don't tear up streets that we've already repaved. All right, thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
No.
Dunlap. Aye. Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. SPH 1. And do we want to deal with these other three that you presented before me at the same time, Madam City Clerk?
I'm sorry.
These,
on SPH 1, we're just asking that they change the date to October the 16th, because the other two are already scheduled for the October 9th. Is that correct, Ms. Moore?
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. That'll be fine.
So
That
instead
is
of
good.
October 9th, we're asking for October 16th, if that'd be okay with the
Okay.
council.
I don't require you read it, but do you have to read SPH 1?
I'm sorry.
Is it necessary that you read it?
No.
No? Okay, so set the public hearing for October 16th at 7 p.m. SPH 2.
Staff,
Go ahead.
you want to set the public hearing?
Set the public hearing for October 30th, 2012 at 7 p.m. CM1. Mr. City Manager, CM1. A1.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. There was a closed session held as the CS1 closed session confidential conference with labor negotiators under Government Code Section 54957.6A, Employee Organizations, Service Employees International Union, Inglewood Management Employees Organization, Inglewood Executive Organization, Inglewood Police Officers Association, Inglewood Police Management Association, Inglewood Police Civilian Management Association, negotiators for the city, Zardy Field City Manager, and Mike Falco. Discussions were held, however, no final action was taken. There was a closed session held as to CS2 closed session, personnel exemption under Government Code Section 54957, selection of Chief of Police. Discussions were held, however, no final action was taken. There was a closed session held as to CS3 closed session, confidential, attorney-client privilege, potential litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9B1, claim of Bergman and Dacey. Request a motion to authorize payment of billings.
So moved. Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Abstain.
Dunlap. Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye.
That concludes the reports out of closed session for this evening, Mr. Mayor.
No
And there are
public
no
reports.
verbal reports.
CC1, Madam City Clerk.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the residents that October the 22nd is the last day to register to vote for the November election, so they need to do that. Also wanted to, I don't know how many people know this, I just found out myself that Wanda Brown's mother passed away, so we want to keep her in our prayers. And then one other final note, Mr. Stevens, I need you to get your financial campaign reports in my office. They were due. I've given you letters. They're due. Please, as soon as possible. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
That's the end of my report.
Madam
Oh,
City.
wait.
Madam City Clerk, could we go back to A2?
Okay. Staff report recommending adoption of a resolution amending the 2011-12 fiscal year budget to transfer funds from various accounts into liability claim fees expense account number 001-099-9936-44715 in order to pay the ongoing legal and other expenses associated with the lawsuit and claims against the city.
Move adoption of the
Second.
resolution.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Buds.
Aye. City Treasurer is not present. There'll be no verbal report. We have 4 council initiatives. We'll limit presentation to 3 minutes and 3 minutes for comments by the council. CI1.
Mayor, I move
Initiative-
to overrule the chair and have
Cool.
the 5 minutes that are permitted by the our rules of decorum and our municipal code.
I second that.
Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Dunlap.
Aye.
Morales.
No.
Franklin.
For 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 5 minutes, no.
Mayor Buds.
No.
Okay.
CI1.
3 minutes it is. Initiative by Councilmember Stevens recommending the City Council revisit the recent modifications of the City of Inglewood management organization structure.
Yes, colleagues, this, what we have here, I believe, is a situation where we simply are top-heavy here in the city of Inglewood. And in being top-heavy here in the city of Inglewood, I would just like to show you what I'm referring to. Now, this is the proposed structure as proposed by the city manager. We have 2 assistant city managers, 2, right here, and the other one is here, with a possibility of a 3rd city manager, Ms. Tatum, right here, being moved up to this area at a later date and time. Mr. Brown is over here. Point being is that this type of management style we can no longer afford. We have Ms. Mawusi, the assistant to the city manager, and then we also have additional personnel also. Just to give you a comparison, when life was good here in Inglewood, when 2000 and Mr. Weinberg was our city manager at this time. You can see all the various different levels here. But also, once again, you have the two assistant city managers, here and here. What I would like to point out to you is that this type of government here in the city of Inglewood can no longer sustain itself. And our employees are paying, our lower level employees are paying the price. The problem is here on the 9th floor. It's always been a management issue here. But just for history's sake, let's take a look at what Inglewood used to be. Back in 1992, it was very simplistic. These were your commission positions here. You had your community development and housing, which was over here. Engineering was here. You had your management information services here, finance here, personnel, communications. All answered to one person, the city manager. It wasn't any of this, well, first it goes to an assistant city manager here and here. Here you have an assistant city manager here, but this assistant city manager was actually a person that would deal with outside entities. Melvin Cravens. This was under Paul Eccles. This was during his term as city manager here. He would deal with things such as today, MTA. He would deal with SCAG. He would go to those type of events. This is those type of entities. The point is that the voters were at the top. This is the most glaring example. The voters were at the top. If you take a look where we come, the voters are no longer at the top. The mayor is at the top. See, this is the problem here on the 9th floor, and then the people down at the bottom here, they all pay. They're all. We're proposing to eliminate their positions with furloughs and all these other things that are acting now. But well, I was just going to conclude. May I have another minute?
Please, yes.
Thank you. So what I'm asking you, colleagues, is this: is that I'll read it to you. It is recommended that the Inglewood City Manager be directed to modify the 2012-2013 organizational structure to reflect a flatter organizational structure without being top-heavy with highly compensated multiple assistant city managers. This is the issue. And I only wish to just present this to you, and you think about it over the next 7 days. I'm not looking for you to vote on it. Just simply think about it. And I was hoping that we could discuss this issue, and we could discuss your thoughts on it before we voted on the budget, because it is going to affect us having a CFO, now assistant city manager, having another assistant city manager increase in pay, and then this individual here in planning will be promoted to this level here, because underneath them you have our entire planning department. And this type of structure we can no longer afford at the cost of our lower level employees.
All right. Thank you, sir.
I thank you.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dunlap.
Mr. Fields, with regard to the economic and community development, what is that position? It's not identified.
It's the Economic and Community Development Director.
Is that the same thing as a department head?
Yes, it is.
And when you do the next organizational chart, Mr. Fields, I would highly recommend you put the voters of the city of Inglewood at the top, where they belong.
This is just a representation of the
Mr.
staff
Fields,
portion.
I'm very
This is-
familiar with what it is. I'm just saying in the past they have, that is a good point. At the top of this organization is actually the voters.
The budget document does have an organization that represents what you're speaking of. Again, this was just to focus on the changes.
Well, you know what, it doesn't hurt to put it, Mr. Fields. It's not something to argue over. Just put it on there.
Well, I'm just
because,
letting you know my logic for doing it the way I've done it. If we had put all of those commissions on there, it would have, already it's really difficult to see the titles of the positions. It would have shrunk all those boxes even more so. So this is just an attempt to make it more legible for the council and the public.
What are the criteria by which this layoff plan that this council voted for, what is the criteria that will be used to design that?
Currently, right now, we're going to look at, I think right now I would prefer to come back and discuss those reductions in closed session with the council, since they
Well, I
do
don't
have.
mean specific, I mean the
Right, yeah.
parameters, the general parameters, anytime there's a layoff in the city, just the
Right.
general parameters.
Right.
I'm not talking about specifics.
Okay, well, there are a couple of things. One would be, we would obviously, as we've done in the past, look at core services and make sure that they continue to be addressed. But secondly, what I plan to do is to proportion the needed reductions by bargaining group. And so we will be negotiating with each bargaining group. And there are certain bargaining groups that have come forward already and said that they would be interested in participating in the furlough. So they will be removed from the workforce reduction plan because their bargaining group has, in fact, participated. So it'll be based on a proportionate share of the bargaining group to the total $2.5 million that we need to eliminate from the budget. It's more of a personnel-driven reduction, as insinuated by the workforce reduction title.
All right. Since we're speaking in the budget slightly, with regard to the increase in fees, the user fees, I just want you to know that I do not support that, because that's an additional burden upon the residents of this community, just to let you know. Because you did talk about a study, it was on the agenda once, and it was pulled. So it's never
You and
come
I
to
had a
fruition.
conversation about that, and you did say that you would be open to considering fee increases that did not impact our residents, and there are a number of those that we plan to bring back, where businesses who are doing business in our community, like developers who pay a fee for developments, that we will be bringing back.
Are those the only fees you plan on having?
We're going to
on
be
this?
we'll be bringing back all the fees for the city consideration.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just two quick things. We have about 650 employees now.
Correct.
And in an organization of 650 people, we have a city manager and 2 assistants and a deputy. Is that right?
A deputy, yes.
All right. Is it true or is it not true whether the chief financial officer were elevated to assistant city manager and allowed to do more work and supervise, he would still get the same pay? Is that right?
True.
All right.
I'm sorry, what? Would you repeat your phrase?
Well, actually, he understood, and I think the public understood. So the reality is he would still be on the chart. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So the fact that he's elevated, given more work to do for his pay, doesn't increase the bottom line, does it?
No, it does not.
All right, thank you. And then one more thing. The voters are always at the top, but for the purposes of presentation, you tried to clutter it as little as possible so that it was legible to get to the meat of the stuff that people were going to want to analyze. We all know the voters at the top of the chain here.
Right.
They elect the council.
Right.
I
And
just
it was
wanted to
stated
make-
that you were at the top, but it's the mayor and the city council
I
that
know.
for these purposes are.
I get that. Okay, that's that. CI2?
Just for housekeeping purposes, can I just detour just for one quick
Yes.
second? We spoke about the public hearing, and I spoke with Ms. Tatum, and she said that they really need to have SPH1 for October 9th, and she was willing to swap out another
That will be fine.
hearing, so we'll take care of that on our end. I just wanted to let you know, so that date will remain the same, October 9th for SPH1. Thank you.
We should revote
Well,
for record.
No, you
No,
don't
we
need a
didn't
vote
vote
for
on it. It
that,
was just a hearing.
because it's
Setting the
just
hearing.
setting,
We just
yeah.
set a hearing.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
CI2?
Initiative by Council Member Stevens recommending discussing proposed amendments to the 2012-13 fiscal year capital improvement project.
Yes, colleagues, this is an initiative that I've brought forward. It states very clearly that it's recommended that the Inglewood City staff be directed to modify the 2012-2013 capital improvement project CIP budget that we just voted, that my colleagues voted for. Modify the 2012-2013 capital improvement project CIP budget to provide an additional $6,811,151 for residential street paving. That's additional $6,811,151 for residential street paving. The funds used would be Measure R local return revenues of $2,399,758 and gas tax revenues of $411,393. Now, the basis of this is that we have a situation here where statements were made here before this body that Measure R funds, well, we've clarified the fact that there are two components, local as well as highway, and that highway funds are not used on our local streets. I've clarified that. My colleagues seem to have been a bit confused on that one. When we're talking about the issue dealing with the funding here, when we have colleagues, a balance in the account, in the budget, for, once again, for the gas tax revenue of $4,411,303. That's a balance. That money is just sitting there. But yet, Mr. Fields, we have a shortfall in this city of how much? 4 million what?
We currently do not have a shortfall. The council approved the budget
you
tonight with
projected
a...
without the corrections, what was it?
Oh,
4 million
approximately
what?
$4 million, yes.
How much was it?
$4 million.
$4 million.
Yeah.
And yet we have $4 million tucked away here, tucked away, that's not being utilized for the repaving of our streets. Then we have here $2,022,318 right here that's not listed in capital improvements. It's just floating somewhere out there. Then we have another $2,399,758 in Measure R local return funds. Now let's just talk about local return funds. What can they be used for? Oh, but before we go there, let's talk about this because I only have 18 seconds left.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. You say that so gleefully, Mr. Mayor. See, the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, the voters, you have a right to know, and our responsibility is to try to provide you with decent streets. That's the purpose. Our job is not to sit here and just simply say, okay, well, $4 million, $2 million is being removed.
Councilman Stevens.
Another minute, please, sir.
No, your time, sir. You've got 3 of these. So, Mr. Falco, could you address the surpluses, please?
Yes, Mayor. The representation that was made regarding the funds that are restricted may not be used for general purpose funds, which typically are referred to as the general fund. So if there's a surplus in a special fund or an enterprise fund, it is not practical, nor is it allowed for us to simply move it from one location to another. There are restrictions applied to those funds that do not permit that.
That is correct, but Mr. Fields said that was the case, and that's what I was going to.
Okay.
That's what I was going to address. You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
You cannot use Measure R funds in the general fund.
Right.
Yet Mr. Fields stated that was the case. Play back the tape.
All right. Thank you. Any council comments?
Yes.
Councilman Dunlap.
Yes, I do believe we could have expedited these discussions. I had my colleague to my right given the opportunity, as was agreed upon with the city manager, to discuss these things at the time the budget and the capital improvement projects items were on the agenda, as opposed to doing them again separately. I think it would have been more valuable to have included them, as Mr. Fields did recommend and did agree to, and I think that was the right thing to do, Mr. Fields. Thank you.
Well, Mayor, if I can confirm that, Councilmember Stevens and I did meet, and he requested that be the case. I told him that I would discuss the matter with you, and you made your decision after I discussed the matter with you, and it was not what Councilmember Stevens and I had originally talked about, so.
Okay, thank you. CI3.
Initiative by Councilmember Stevens recommending policy modifications for the City of Inglewood Residential Sound Installation Department with respect to long-term Inglewood home owners with unpermitted structures or minor code violations.
Yes, colleagues, this particular initiative is addressing the issue of our sound installation department. It was simply direct staff to review homes eligible for sound installation but were rejected due to an unpermitted structures or minor code violations, and place these homes back in their original sequence in the Inglewood Residential Sound Installation Department program waiting list providing. Right now what happens is that if you are disqualified from the sound installation program, you are disqualified. Instead of you, after you've completed the violation, or let's say even right now, if you have a code violation, you would then have to resubmit virtually going back to the back of the line. Let's say you've had a code violation and now we're making funding available. Remember, funding has not been available for code violations for many, many years, yet people have been cited for this. Many of our residents are seniors, and they're on limited fixed incomes. Yet, if they correct these code violations, they are placed at the back of the line. So what this initiative would be is as follows. These homes, place these homes back in their original sequence in the Inglewood Residential Sound Installation Department program, waiting list providing. The homeowner has been disqualified because of unpermitted structures that are not dilapidated nor hazardous, and said structures are said not being sound insulated or required to be sound insulated to be made compatible under Title 24 of the California Housing Codes. Or the homeowner has been disqualified because of minor code violations that are neither a hazard nor consisting of or impacting a portion of the structure to be sound insulated. Meaning this is that we have people who are being disqualified from the sound insulation program simply because of a carport, because of a shed that was added to their garage back in the 70s or 60s. They're disqualified from the program. The shed is not even attached to the actual home. It's attached to the back of the garage. Number of people have been disqualified. And this is what this initiative is. Now, I have 26 seconds left. We, at this time in sound insulation, we have no methodology, none at all, though I have requested it, of determining when these horse sheds were built that people have converted into playhouses, into workshops in their backyard. We have no type of aerial maps of any type, microfiche of anything, predating 1978. And yet you have to be predating 1968. You have to predate 1968 in order to be grandfathered in. So the point is, this is what this initiative is addressing. And so what I'm willing to do is allow you to think about it for 7 days once again. And I will bring it back next week, read it, digest it. If you'd like to contact me and ask me any questions, I would be more than happy to answer your questions. But I would like for you to digest it and decide whether or not you wish to support this initiative at that time.
CI 4.
Excuse me, I have a comment.
Councilwoman Donna.
Yes. I think that anytime we can talk about improving our sound insulation program, we need to be doing that as it affects the residents of this community. 1968, it seems very difficult. I mean, if that's the cutoff time, that's even prior to Prop 13 going into effect with regard to grandfathering structures that may not be up to code. I would certainly be willing to look at ways to protect the rights of residents of this community to participate in this program, to not have to go to the end of the line with regard to certain code violations. Also, I'd be willing to add, actually I'm going to comment on something my colleague has spoken about in the past, and that is funds available for fixing code violations. And I would be supportive of monies, and that would actually prohibit people from getting the sound insulation because they have code violations that they can't afford to repair. So I would be supportive of utilizing some source of money, whether it's CDBG or home, whatever we might have available, in some type of, I'm going to call it an interest-free second, meaning it goes as a note on the property, a lien, but they only pay back the principal at the time they sell their home, or the home changes hand for some reason, meaning that if $5,000 is needed to bring the home up to code to make them eligible for the sound insulation, they should be able to be made eligible. The city would then, through certain federal programs, loan them the $5,000, do the repairs that are needed to bring their home up to code, and then that amount of money, that $5,000, would go as a note on the property, but it doesn't accrue any interest. It just remains $5,000 for as long as they own the home. When the home sells, then they would pay that $5,000 back to us. So that allows them to take advantage of this program, because we have many residents who have lived here for 30 years or longer who would normally be eligible for the sound installation program, but they have these code violations, possibly illegal structures, and they don't have the money to do the repairs or to bring them up to code. So I think it's incumbent upon us to look at other sources of funding that we have. After all, we use these funds to allow outside developers to come in to build affordable housing, so why not try to be creative, use some of these funds to benefit people who've lived here for the long term, and the money is paid back to us to be utilized again in the future by other homeowners. So I would be supportive of taking a look at some of these ideas that are being presented. I hope that my colleagues in Districts 3 and 4, who also have many homes in the noise contour, might be able to add to the discussion in this manner. Thank you.
Councilman Franklin?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, Mr. City Manager, I'd welcome for you to have this item, CI3, be presented to your staff from RSI. My recollection is that, well, first of all, the city attorney, we actually had a outside law firm look into this regarding housing that can become eligible based upon pre-existing conditions, which made them exempt, and that they had to do some improvements. That needs to be part of that study. But more importantly, once a structure is brought up to current code, then in turn, do they really have to wait and start all over again, or is it based upon bid packages that bid packages are already lingering from a year to 2 years, and that's the reason why by the time they get back into the bid cycle, that's the reason why it's taken us long. So I'd much rather have the staff do an assessment if the city attorney needs to get input of that as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Two things. One, this does sound fundamentally fair, but I think that is the issue, Mr. City Manager. And it'd be good, excuse me, to have the RSI staff confirm it. Is this an issue that really, because people have code violations, they get bounced to the end of the line, or the fact that because the bid packages go on and they miss their bid package, now they have to go through the process again? I think that's the issue. But as a fundamental fairness issue, if they can be given consideration, that's great. Also on this issue of code violations, CDBG funds, I've been on the council for a little over 18 months, and I've heard this actually raised now for the 5th time. And for the 5th time, the issue is not that we don't have money allocated to do this for people, but there are income level restrictions for the use of these types of funds. And so there are people that do get to make use of them, but the reality is that everyone doesn't qualify by means of income. So we have discussed this about 5 times. It's a very great thing to do, but that's kind of the issue. Okay, CI4.
Initiative by Councilmember Dunlap. Motion to reconsider adoption of the salary ordinance for the 2012-13 fiscal year presented before the City Council on September 18, 2012.
Yes, actually, Mayor, I discussed some of these points that I had earlier, so I'll make this rather brief. But I have a concern on this salary ordinance and the discussion information brought to the public. There seems to be some discrepancies. Just now this evening, we were told that the 2 positions that I was particularly interested in, which was Community Outreach Coordinator, were not paid with general fund money. And then I went back and reviewed the tape on June 11th when this item was first presented, and it says they were paid with general fund money. And so that concerns me, because we should be able to trust the veracity of statements brought before the public and to this body. I'm also concerned that no one on the 9th floor seemed to know who these people were in this salary ordinance, how they got hired or who they were, didn't even know what their names were. And yet tonight, and also it says here, because I'm looking at some quotes, it says that at the time of the new budget that they're going to be reassigned to Public Works, which means they've been assigned to the mayor's office, mayor and city council. That's what was presented on the PowerPoint. Well, then I've got a concern that no one seems to know who people are who work for the mayor and council office. And the only reason this was brought up is because I'm a part of the mayor and council's office, and I didn't know who these people were. So that's what originally brought this up. But considering all of these things have to do with the budget and people talking about people getting raises, and we're talking about furloughs, we're talking about layoffs. We do have some bargaining units that are coming to the table with regard to furloughs, and it was stated very clearly that if a bargaining unit comes to the table with regard to agreeing to furloughs, then there will be no layoffs in that particular bargaining unit. Is that true, Mr. Falco? Mr. Fields?
Yes, that would be something that the council would have to approve. Like I said, I'm bringing back a plan that the council will approve, and that'll be up to you.
All right, how many permanent part-time and full-time employees do we have at this time?
In total, I believe there's 645.
645. Of all the employees, either permanent, part-time, and full-time who work for the city, 645, how many are currently taking furlough?
All the full-time employees are taking furlough.
All 645 employees are on furlough?
Are in some form of a furlough, yes.
Some form of furlough.
Yes.
Mr. Fields, you're an employee of the city of Inglewood. Are you on furlough?
When I was hired by the city council, for which you did not approve my contract, the council did negotiate with me, reducing the salary that I requested by the 10%, rather than pay me the additional amount and have to, when the furlough was lifted, to instead have to increase my salary by 10%. So when all the other employees come off of furlough, my salary will stay the same, and the other employees' salaries will go up.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Fields. That's not my understanding at all. And we've hired two new people, Public Works Director, Chief Financial Officer. Whatever their salary was that they were hired at, they're taking a furlough.
They are not contract employees,
which is a
Councilmember.
reduction, and I have no knowledge of any such discussion with you, and I believe you should set an example for the employees
I am setting an example.
of this city, and you should be on furlough like everybody else.
I am on, my
like
salary was reduced 10%.
All 644 of the other employees, like members of the city council,
You're at time,
city clerk, and city treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you. Call to order the City of Inglewood as a successor agency.
A quorum is present.
CSA 2.
Approval of the minutes held August 14th and August 21 on 2012.
So, move approval.
Second. Madam City Clerk.
Agency Member Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Chairman Butts?
Aye. Adjourn the City of Inglewood as a successor agency. Convene the Inglewood Housing Authority. Madam City Clerk.
Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay. I'm sorry. Quorum is present.
H2.
Staff report recommending approval of a one-year agreement with Kaiser Marston Associates to provide economic consultant service related to completing affordable housing projects and programs.
Move approval.
Second.
Madam City Clerk.
Agency Member Stevens?
Aye.
Dunlap?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Chairman Butts?
Aye. Adjourn the City of Inglewood Housing Authority.
Uh,
Public comments. Any persons wishing to
quorum is present.
address the City Council on any matter connected with city business not elsewhere considered may do so at this time. We're going to have to change the tape at 10, folks, or before 10. Go ahead, sir.
Honorable Mayor Butts, I sympathize with you in regards to this allegation from the U.S. Department of Justice. Allegation is it is not something to be taken lightly, but also you're not guilty. So I understand that, and I sympathize because I have received calls from the Justice Department as well. So we have two things in common. One is that we run for office, and second, that now the Justice Department intimidate us instead of working for us. And why I speak on behalf of the citizens of the city is because, I'm here 20 years unemployed, and when I read item 9, staff report recommending approval of purchase of tactical ballistic vest per request for quotes, I often wonder, why would we need ballistic vest? Are we in a war, or are we not civilized? I called this morning in San Francisco to become to see if I would become, after I should be practicing medicine, a court interpreter in Spanish. So now I have to be legitimized in speaking my native tongue. And no one answers because they are on furlough in San Francisco. And when I ask them whether they speak Spanish, every time they say Los Angeles, San Francisco, they're in denial. Because they do speak limited Spanish, but they won't recognize it. The point is that when I saw you all at the event for the Welcome of the Challenger, you invited us to visit the museum. And I have a friend here. His name is Zanahoria. In Spanish is that means in English carrot, because we understand the carrot and the stick. And in lieu of our children, Mr. Mayor, having to visit the museum, he's going to invite all of your children to visit it, because we don't have children or have family, because here we are unemployed for 20 years because we did not march in the civil rights movement. So please forgive them and let them understand that this is what is civil, this is democracy at work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Attorney, City Attorney, and thank you, Officer Ferreira, for allowing me to speak on behalf of my mother, myself, and those of the citizens of this city who can relate to this. Gracias.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff, citizens of Inglewood. My name is Wayne Spencer. I'm the chairman of the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. I'm here this evening on behalf of the South Bay WIB to provide a brief summary of its current activities. As you're aware, the South Bay WIB is comprised of representatives of the 9 participating cities of Inglewood, El Segundo, Lawndale, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, Carson, Gardena, and Hawthorne for the delivery of employment and training services through its one-stop business and career centers. My report summarizes July 19, 2012 South Bay Workforce Investment Board meeting activities and program accomplishments through the 4th quarter of 2011-2012. The South Bay WIB is currently preparing for their 17th annual Alumni Awards Breakfast, which will be held at the Ayers Hotel on October 25, 2012. Congresswoman Maxine Waters will be our keynote speaker, and Republic Services will receive the Esther Williams Awards. The South Bay WIB has been doing extremely well with the National Emergency Grant Project. To date, over 1,900 participants have been enrolled, 165 have exited, and 142 of these individuals were rehired at $16.42. The South Bay WIB Investment Board is currently preparing to submit a new National Emergency Grant application, which will cover an additional 45 employers, which will cover employees that did not qualify for the initial $45 million grant. Staff at the South Bay WIB is currently working on the South Bay WIB strategic plan. Senate Bill 698, signed by Governor Brown, implements new standards for all high-performance WIBs within the state of California, and the staff is seeking a way of integrating the one-stop centers into the planning process. Staff met with the executive committee and conducted a vision exercise led by Mr. Craig Smithson. From that exercise, a draft South Bay WIB vision, mission, and goals was created. The final strategic plan will be presented at the October 18, 2012 South Bay WIB quarterly meeting. Principal Ryan Smith of Lucinda High School and Superintendent Gary McHenry of Inglewood Unified School District met with the South Bay WIB seeking assistance for their summer programs. This summer, for 4 days a week, for 4 weeks, we were able to offer training for credit recovery for both of these school districts, which was Sentinel Valley Union High and the Inglewood Unified School District. This year, a total of 130,956 individuals were served by the South Bay WIB One-Stop Business and Career Centers through June of 2012. Rapid response services were provided for a total of 12 companies, which represented 1,420 employees affected by layoff closures during the 4th quarter of 2011-2012. Staff has completed their EDD evaluations and the job services provided at all of these centers. Our approval rating this year has been 83%, which represents a continuous high level. Please let your employers know that we have rapid response services available for any companies that have impending layoffs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And may I approach the city clerk or whoever should get these items? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, staff, and council. My name is Stuart Bailey. I am going to speak on the salary ordinances that we have been talking about in the city. We are going back and forth with our furloughed employees, and we need to come to a compromise. Instead of the people that are asking for a raise, let's talk about an increase. but not just an increase for them at the salary base that they want. Why don't we just pay the people that need, that you want to give the raise to a certain percentage, okay? If we're going to be in this all together, as far as, the furlough workers, they need help too. Okay, so we can all compromise with this. The people that get the raise can share the raise with the people that need the help. I know that the furlough workers are paid well, and I'm sure the people that need I don't want to say need the raise, because nobody needs a raise, especially when you make over 100,000, or at least that much. You're not hurting in these times and stuff. And you're not anyway. What I mean by sharing is basically, if you're going to go up to 150,000, how about you make 120,000? The money that's left over, share it with the furloughed employees, because they're the ones that are out there paving the streets in the hot sun in the summer, working with hot asphalt. You've got people repairing pipes when our infrastructure is broken. These people put in hard work. And I'm not saying that the people that deserve the raise, they don't do that much. But we all, in these days and times, like Obama said, we have to show a little compassion, a little empathy. Okay? Now, taking a percentage of a raise, if you're going to make 150,000 to 120,000 and sharing the rest with somebody else, that's, could use a little gas money. It's hard out there, people. Let's all share in the windfall, if this is a windfall. I'm sure, like I said, the people that need the raise, kudos to them. But they would be that much better if they could help those who've been furloughed. Okay? I'm not saying give all the money away, but I'm saying let's share as a human being would do. Let's do the right thing. These are my comments, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Good evening, Council. Lynette Lewis from District 4. I just want to kind of ask a little question here. When they talked about the capital funds and whatever, that it was done for measure for highways and what have you. Well, I would also hope that they would put, since that Imperial Highway is a highway, that we'd certainly be able to do something with that, because we are getting on the east side of Crenshaw, there's a lot of paving going on over there. On the west side, there's a lot that's going on over there, but on the east side, there's none. So we are not in the economic development area, so we're not getting anything there. Having said that, I also want to do a little take off on this reorganization of the chart. I would like to see the chart be reorganized, but it has to be done basically by the administration, and then should be approved by the total council. Not in the back room, not somewhere else that somebody put something up there. It should be approved by the council. And I think the council needs to draft that ordinance so we can start looking at an organization chart that represent this community. And also on the other initiative, on Council Dunlap's initiative, that is in itself the salary ordinance. I think we should look at, there is something, Assembly Bill 701, that's on there, and that's a salary by population of the city. And I think we should be looking at that, because our city population, as to what we have, the salary should represent the number of people in the city. Right now, our salaries in this city is like about 5 times higher than the general law allows, okay, if you look at the book. So that, having said that, I think that that is some of the things that we started looking at and started putting this city back together. And because I'm telling you, it's kind of sad out there. People are looking at this city and they don't have a lot of hope for it. So we need to start getting together. And with what was going on up here tonight in terms of the debate, it's always good to have a lively debate back and forth, but it was almost an antagonistic, very hostile situation. I've never seen a city manager so hostile with the council who is their boss, because he's a very, very hostile person. And I you know, that is something that we have got to start working together on and stop being bickering back and forth. My last few minutes, I got to make an announcement. On Friday, on the 28th, at the Bourbon Street restaurant, we're having a voter registration drive there. The Democratic Club will be there along with the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity from Long Beach in the South Bay area. So that'll be from 11 o'clock until. So I hope you guys know if anybody who needs to be registered to vote to really change their address to join us. Okay.
And Ms. Lewis, if you guys need forms, we have a bunch of them for you.
I say he stopped and got 1,000. I told him he was very enthusiastic.
We're going to have to take a 15-minute recess to change the DVD.
A quorum is present.
My name's Diane Zambrano. Pretty impressive. We don't have the announcement that the quorum's present, and you already want to say hearing no other public. Wow, that's right up there with having reserved seats for staff. Isn't that incredible? This is supposed to be a public meeting, and for the last 20-something years I've been coming here, staff was very comfortable in the conference room. They did not get reserved seating. In the past, reserved seating would have been for the public, but clearly, just like they don't appear on the chart, we don't matter to you. I'm going to go ahead and point out something significant before your fan club gets up to tell everybody how inappropriate my comments are. I want everyone to stop and think about that top 1% in Americana. That 1% that everyone thinks is really a horrible group that doesn't pay their fair share and blah-de-da-de-da-de-da. Does anyone know where that cutoff is? $380,354. Top 5%, $159,619. How many of us would recognize it in this community of poverty that we just heard so much? The man who can't do anything but watch the clock is ever so close to that 380,000, 238 plus 100 plus whatever you're getting from City of LA. You'd think that maybe that clock would not be the thing that we worship so heartedly. And you know what's really sad? At some point, the other two over here, who are so definitely not willing to give another person a minute, guess what? Just like that saying, if he's married to someone else and cheating with you, don't be surprised when he hooks up with you and he cheats with someone else. What a great legacy you're looking forward to. Watch your loyalties, because you've already proven where your loyalty isn't. And that's to hearing the truth. That's to representing all the people by letting the representatives over here who were duly elected the opportunity to speak. That's going to come back to you. I may not agree with these two. Haven't spoken to some of them in many light years, and that's personal. But you know what? I will always argue that they have a right to ask a question. And even when this one over here gets up to bash me on a regular basis, he has the right to do that. But you know what? You guys are the ones who've proven where your loyalties are, and they're with a man rather than the public.
Good evening, Mayor. Sorry? Hello? All district second. I would strongest people. Okay. And I would also like to recognize to my left, Rocco. Glad to see you have a presence here. My opinion is it happened years ago. My opinion is we might not be in the boat right now. And we'll see what happens. Mayor and City Council, I hope that we get through this together without the tension. I don't expect folks to be friends and whatnot. Sometimes it's just a matter of you doing your job. But I hope that we'll always remain at least respectful. Otherwise, nothing will be done. Everybody has the right to say their piece. I think that, as professionals and adults, an agreement to be made, a compromise to be made. If there's something that's important enough to take 5 minutes instead of 3 or 10 minutes instead of 5, I think that, I know that some sort of agreement can be made. And then people be professional. Have to install. You guys.
Mayor, Council, my name is Joseph Texera, District 1. Civil Rights Division of the U.S. Justice Department is currently investigating IPD and the City Council for unethical conduct, not providing proper police services to Inglewood's residents of color. As I stated last week, I gave IPD administrators, the city clerk, the city attorney, and this entire city council chance after chance for a full year to do the right thing after I requested IPD records from the clerk concerning a shooting. But I've come here for so long, given you so much evidence, and heard so many lies from so many people, I can now say without any fear of legal ramifications that all of you have, for political reasons, repeatedly engaged in or facilitated violations of the law that hid misconduct by both IPD and yourselves. So next meeting, I'll begin to play the IPD tapes that the city has illegally withheld for 9 months that prove my year-long allegations are true, that IPD repeatedly avoided investigating a shooting with multiple witnesses and evidence where the victims were my neighbor's teenage son and his friend. I'll play the tapes of an IPD officer telling me that shooting a gun out of a car in Inglewood was only technically a crime, and trying to scare me out of filing a report on the shooting, but telling me to risk my life and do their job and collect bullet shells for them in a fresh crime scene. And only after I did that did IPD actually come out, get out of their car at a crime scene about an hour and a half after my neighbor's son was shot at. I'll play a tape indicating that IPD believes that if someone gets shot in Inglewood, they must have brought it on themselves. In my opinion, this IPD belief shows both why crime in Inglewood is so unusually high for how nice the city is, and why the Justice Department had to sue IPD in the city for civil rights violations, because some in the police department apparently think that all victims of shootings in Inglewood are criminals. So why spend a lot of time looking for the people that shot at them? How would the mayor explain to all the families of those killed in Inglewood what IPD meant when I was told, quote, if this person is being shot at, there's a reason he's being shot at, unquote. That's an arrogant, disrespectful, and ignorant way to do things. And that's like saying if a woman is raped, there's a reason she was raped. The tapes will also show that the mayor let IPD's Captain Sissick and former Chief Seabrooks blatantly mislead the public about my complaints and the content of those IPD tapes, even though both of them admitted that they personally listened to the tapes. The tapes will show that Seabrooks lied when she said that IPD told me to look for bullet shells the next day when it was light out and safe, when I was actually told to look at night, that night of the shooting, when it was dark and unsafe. And the tapes show that the mayor and Sissick told the public a whopper of a lie when they said the shooting I've described over and over again never even happened. Exposing these kind of lies is why I keep coming here. And I'd like to point out, as far as the org chart goes, when I first started this, I looked at the org chart, and it showed that the chief of police was under the city council. If you go to the website now, the fire department and the city police are not even under the org chart, even though the city charter says that it is.
Yes, sir. Help Austin. District 2, Judy Dunlap. I would like to say something to you guys. I remember coming here when Mayor Dawn was here. And I swear I have to say, they gave Mayor Dawn the blues. And 3 of you still there. But yet you're too scared to debate with this mayor. I can't understand this. I really just, Mayor Dawn went through, in this beautiful city, it was beautiful. Mayor Dawn ran this city the best he could with what he had. He could not get 3 votes to save his life. But now, oh my God, maybe I should apply for a job and get 3 votes from you all. Would you hire me? Anyway, another thing I want to say, tomorrow, for the mental people, 5150, they have a film. Second district supervisor is showing. I think I sent you, Councilwoman, an email. Could you forward it to everyone? And make sure you download the ticket. I also want to say, we know this is the election year. We know that. But to go in someone else's meetings or block clubs and without the council, it could be Franklin, Morales, to any one of you all, I think it's disrespectful. I really do, especially if you're a candidate. If I was running against you, Mr. Butts, I wouldn't go to your block club meetings without you being there. I think it was totally wrong. We had to sit up and be ran by someone else when our councilwoman wasn't present. She should have been at our block club meeting or either invite the candidate to her block club committee meetings. Do you know what I'm talking about? Padilla, Alex Padilla. He's running against Judy Dunlap. He's a candidate. Because I said it was disrespectful. You don't, yeah, but you only been, you are the mayor. You could go anywhere. Yeah, he ain't nothing. You the mayor. What I'm saying is disrespectful to any council member up there if they not invited. This is the election year. And you don't come in and take over nobody's meetings. That's what I'm saying. Not you. Why you always thinking it's you? My God, I ain't talking to you. Jesus. You're not up for election yet. No, God. Why you always think it's you? No, I'm talking to my councilwoman. No, I said it would be disrespectful if I was running against you and went and invade your privacy without your permission. You know what I'm saying? Now, why would I go sit in on your people without you knowing? Yes, but it's just a polite thing and the right way to do it in the political field. Well, anyway, yeah, you took all of my time. You're going to pay me back, too. You're going to pay me back. You owe me $10. Okay.
Gil Matthew, District 4. Now, what she's talking about, he's your appointee to the police commission, appointed him as chairman. So there's a relationship. That's what she's talking. and he is running, so. Then you have another one running, got some sign. So just be fair. Anyway, first I want to say that this city is going to survive. That's number one. So just chill and stop being all excited and all the rhetoric. I've been here before. I've seen it worse. Okay? So we've already discussed what the situation is. It's no longer a problem. Okay, the city is broke. You spend more money than they had, so you got a deficit, so you're doing things to even the score. However, there's some things that you're not considering. Number one, you've avoided a successor agency. And I don't care what budget you have, which budget you approve, it's going to be affected by the successor agency. And it may be affected directly because the things that you are putting on the recognized obligation payment is dependent upon approval. Now the question arises, what contingency plan have you made when those obligations are not accepted or approved, and then it has to come out of a general fund, which you have unfunded liabilities? So all of this thing is going on now is totally insane in my opinion. And whoever decided to have budget hearings in this method is absolutely crazy. And I don't know who made the decision, or was it made unilaterally, or was it made by the mayor? But Mr. Mayor, you cannot micromanage this city. And if your colleagues won't tell you, I will. And you have a footprint on this city administrator, and if you can't man up, get you a plan B. It's happened before. And are you familiar with La Puente? Right? You know where La Puente is, right? Oh, you mute, okay. Anyway, he's from La Puente also. And you make the same errors over and over. You're going to need a bond sale. You're going to need a bond sale. So stop all of this, I'm broke, but don't be broken. Get a bond sale, control the money with a 4/5 vote to spend it. But man up. You're very welcome, and I'll be back.
My name is Willie A.G., and I live in the beautiful city of Inglewood. I'm kind of happy tonight. You know, Mr. Fields, I want to congratulate you for standing up, defending yourself tonight. You too, appreciate you. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. You're right, this city is going to move because we got people in place here that's going to make it move. You know. But you know, this old slave mentality we got going on here in this city, from, I won't call any names, but it's about time it come to a stop, you know. I don't come here every Tuesday night just to listen to a lot of rhetoric, you know. People run off campaigning and all this stuff. You know, we got a city here tonight that's being represented by 3 people that looking forward to this city being what it should be. But you got other council people that don't see it that way. You know, they got their own agenda. And I think they all wants to be mayor of this city, but you can only have one mayor at a time. And we got him, and he one of the best, believe me. 18 years I've been coming here to this council. The same people, the same rhetoric, that old, I won't say it again, but You know, it's time for it to stop and time for these people to start working for the city, or else quit collecting that paycheck every month, you know, because you're not earning your money. You don't vote for the projects that mean anything to this city. You know, I've been watching you for 18 years. I know. And councilman from the 1st District, I would walk day and night to get you out of that seat. Believe me.
Yes, I have.
There's another member.
Oh, another member. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Council. This is my first council meeting ever. I must say I had a blast. 2 brief comments. One on the gentleman that he made before about sharing money. People with money will not share money they feel they rightfully earn. I probably would do the same. However, it sure dictates moral character. I'm not sure if that's seen upon public hearing, but let me tell you, the public and the poor do see it, if that does matter, of course. And another comment made by Mayor earlier had said that the council, the board, should be dictated in a very professional manner, in a very civilized manner, and yet my Councilman Stevens was interrupted quite rudely, I would say. Ms. Dunlap had requested to have a question asked again, and yet it was pushed aside. And I would say that does not look well on moral character, and the money behind it just only asks how much is your character worth to the public. Because unfortunately, with just the few members that are here, is enough to have the word spread. And I'm not sure how much money will cover that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your support. And everyone has a right to their opinion, those of you also out there also. I just want to clarify, just make sure this is crystal clear. For those of you who wish to have your streets paved, understand what I was attempting to show my colleagues here is the following. When we're dealing with Measure R, there are 2 components. There's the local and there's the highway component. The local component can be used to pave your streets. What we have here is an ending balance here of $4,411,303, an ending balance that is not going to be used for your streets. Now, if we did not bring up the issue, if Ms. Dunlap and myself did not ask questions pertaining to the budget, this was just going to be floated right through. What you should be asking is, well, if it was going to be floated through, what about that $4,411,303? Would we have ever really known that that existed? Because remember, you're being told that there is no money to pave your streets. See, this is the significance of this. Now, you move down, then there's the other issue. $4,411,303 in gas tax funding as an ending balance. Measure R funds local return, $2,399,738 for your streets to be paved in your residential neighborhoods. Now, there's $2 million of gas tax money that was actually allocated, that was showed as an expenditure, $2,022,318,000 that was stated here today. They couldn't even tell us where it was. When you go to the capital improvement, which was part of DR5 right there, there's no mention of gas tax revenue. Yet, we were told in the very beginning of this meeting that the city has experienced a shortfall of $4 million plus some odd $1,000. The issue that you need to be asking yourself is this. You have two major issues here. Number one, where is the $2,022,318 was shown as an expenditure, which is nowhere listed in the budget, nor is it in where it's supposed to be in the capital improvement, which I've just shown you. Now, the other question you need to ask yourself is this. My colleague from the 4th District sits on the South Bay COG. And what we as a body needed to do was simply ask the question. Take a look at this. I itemized this. Caltrans received, and this is from South Bay COG.
Gardena received $8 million. Hawthorne, $6 million. Manhattan Beach, $13 million. Redondo Beach, $8 million. Torrance received $43 million. We received only $3,500,000. That's all we received in measure of our money. Why? This is for 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, my time is up. But it's unfortunate that I hope the voters of this city remember exactly why your streets are not paved. And we'll be having town hall meetings, and we'll be explaining to you exactly why. Thank you very much. Drive home safely. Have a good evening.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Actually, with regard to any information at all that was brought out about the budget was only brought out because 2 members of this body sort of forced the issue. Otherwise, you'd have heard nothing. There wouldn't have been the comments, the staff reports, nothing, because I think you may have heard they're prepared to vote immediately with no discussion. That's a travesty upon the residents and the taxpayers of this community. I want to read back onto the record something I read last week. I'm going to add something to it, however, and that has to do with our city charter, which is our Constitution. It says, "There is hereby created in the service of the city the position of administrative officer, who shall be appointed by the city council and serve directly under the supervision and control of the city council in an administrative capacity. He shall prepare the budget annually and submit it to the council and be responsible for its administration after adoption." I read that onto the record last week, and I was accused of politicking. This is the legal responsibility of the city administrative officer. The city manager is to present the budget and to be responsible for its administration and to know what's in it, to know who the personnel are of the city, because also in the item just above this it says, "He shall supervise the personnel system of the city." Reserves. $36 million of our reserves were spent over the last, 3 years? 4 years, because it was started in 2008. We've not replenished those reserves. And with regard to this budget, I didn't see in this budget what needed to be there, and that is, we have this body, this council, we have a moral responsibility to provide the services needed by the residents who live here to maintain their quality of life. That's our moral obligation. And we have a legal obligation to our employees to protect the funds that they've earned through working here for many years for their retirement. A legal obligation. I see nothing in here that prepares us to do either. The money that should be set aside for our employees is gone. Gone. Money, employees have vacation days, they have sick days that they can cash out when they retire. There's no money for that. We're supposed to be paying not only for their retirement, but a medical plan for them when they retire. There's no money for that. So we violated our financial policies year after year. People talk about 3 people of this council moving this city forward. Well, I venture to say, if not the same 3, at least 2 of the 3, and always 3, have put us in the horrible position where we are today. So what I have to say is that I do not believe that this budget protects our employees and their economic future, nor do I see it as providing the kind of services to my constituents that I'd like to see them have. Thank you.
Councilman Morales.
Thank you. And, you know, I know that the majority of folks out there, and I'm really happy that everybody's here, give their opinion. It's very important in how everything gets looked at. The truth is that that's our reality. The budget is what it is. It's no different than many of the cities that are going through some of the same cuts. A lot of hard decisions are being made. One of my colleagues states that you know, we should be kind of fulfilling our obligation for our reserve fund. That's absolutely right. We should. We need to. But if we did it today, we would make so many layoffs and cuts to our employees that only the majority would have the courage to do it. Some of my colleagues wouldn't have the courage to make those moves. But the minute they want to do it, I'm ready. The problem is that we're trying to do it in a way that's extremely responsible. Now, I have to say, we can poke holes all over this budget, just like we could have in the last 20 years if we wanted to. A lot of things have been improving. A year ago, 2 years ago, we had a $17 million deficit. We've resolved that with some of the difficult decisions that we've been making. Do you know this is the first time in I don't know how many years that the city has balanced budget with no one-time expenses? Am I right? We have no one-time revenues in this budget to balance. So when was the last time that happened? 2007, 2008. That's an amazing accomplishment. And that was done with some very difficult decisions, and the fact that we're still making some very timely kind of moves within our administration, within our employees. And yes, we're addressing the retirement benefits, which are very difficult to afford, not only for our city because they keep going up, but for every city that's getting looked at. Medical benefits, that's nothing new. We're not the only ones that are going through that. Medical benefits have been going up an average of like 7 to 10% a year. This year was actually lower at something like 3.2. We got lucky. But the truth is, those are things that have to be impacted every year. They impact the budget to a degree that we have to accept our reality and make the decisions that we need to make. It would be easy up here for me to say, Mr. Fields, you know, we want you to balance the budget and put $30 million in reserve. Oh yeah, that would be easy. That would be good. Make a motion, it go through. Where's it going to come from? Where do you get the money? You can't do it. You have to balance the budget. You have to accept the situation you are in, and there are some difficult decisions we have to make. That's why we're here, to accept your opinions, understand what really our role is, and move it. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Councilman Franklin?
Yes, it seems to be the night of talk is cheap. So let me just add a little comments to it, because when we had to make some tough decisions, particularly back in to 2010, the workforce reduction plan, and also the time when we were absent of a city manager, and we brought on Mark Weinberg back on the board. Some of the key items that was brought before us for Mark Weinberg to consider coming back, as well as when we went to the 2010 workforce reduction plan, and each city manager asked us, are you willing to make the tough decisions? And it's been 3 members of this council that's been making these tough decisions. So you can stay up here all you want and grandstand, but when it gets down where the rubber meets the road, it's critical that you prepare to deal with tough issues and tough decisions. And those are the kind of things we do no different in our own households. With reference to the issues with the South Bay City's Council of Governments, the money from Measure R is appropriated based upon projects presented by the cities ready for development. There's a number of projects that cities have, but they're not ready for development. And there's also some matching funds that's available that's required. And if you don't have those funds to match, then you cannot apply for this Measure R funding. So therefore, the city is not in a lucrative position where we can, in fact, make ourselves more doable, such as Torrance and other cities that have, in fact, had those funds the way they're properly invested. Also, with reference to throughout the entire night, we've been talking about capital improvement projects, and at the town hall meeting as well as this evening, it was repeatedly identified that Van Ness from Century Boulevard on the north to Imperial Highway on the south, and Imperial Highway from Van Ness on the east to Prairie on the west are identified for rehab of those streets. They are being carried by the LA County because it is a joint agency development. And yes, it will be done. The way the funding has been appropriated, and I thank my colleagues for supporting it tonight, that the Van Ness Street will be done first, and then the design will be completed for Imperial Highway by the fall of 2012, and then of 2013, and then by 2014 we'll have Imperial Highway done as well. I also want to thank the residents and the number of guests that we had that came to the District 4 Town Hall meeting that was entitled Moving Our Economy Forward. And we had a number of new businesses that came into the area, such as the Consolidated Disposable Services has come in, as well as Northgate Market for new job opportunities. And we had a big discussion regarding the Spaceship Endeavor that's coming to the city as well. And so if you didn't make it, there was a great opportunity for residents to be able to find a better way on how they can have a better quality of life right here in Inglewood. And I thank everyone for coming and good night.
And two numbers, 6.7 million, that's about the amount of reserves that's recommended for a city with a general fund budget like we have to put aside every year. And then 5.7 million, that's the cost next year to put aside for retirement medical for people that are on the job. It's about 12 some odd million dollars is probably, I don't know, 160, 170 employees. So again, you could sit here and say, well, Mr. City Manager, make it happen. There isn't that money in the budget. You'd have to be saying, how would we decimate the workforce to do that? The reality is that we don't have the wherewithal to put aside a reserve. We were fortunate to close that $17 million gap a little over a year ago. We've made great progress. So, you know, just to sit up and say it's your job, make it happen, when the council spent $33 million in about around 3 years of reserve money because they didn't want to make those tough choices that we have to make every year now. And another thing, it takes more than just getting up and saying money's missing. When the staff sits there and explains to you just how it works time and time again, and then they come back later and tell everybody, well, this could be used to pave your roads, that's demagoguery. That's not true. The reality is that every money program with gas money that can be spent on roads is going to be spent on roads. Here's what you were told, that they planned in the budget to fix the amount of streets they felt they had the capacity for. They also wanted to wait until the new CFO came on and worked with the state to ensure that that audited balance was correct so that they would not mislead the public. Every dime that's allocated to fix roads is going to be used to fix roads, period. And that's the bottom line. I want to tell everybody good night. It's been an interesting meeting. I didn't. What's her name? I want to close the meeting in honor of Michelle Jordan, mother, and Wanda Brown's grandmother, whose name I don't have right now. Her mother, who I don't have right now. Good journey.
No, I can't make it too fast. Go ahead.